before one
you.
is, and I'm sure I'm doing it.
For sure.
The future lies before you like paths of pure white snow. Be careful how you tread it, for every step will show.
Oh my god. Is that from Time.is?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's fantastic.
Unknown.
I just have your time is exact.
What?
Congratulations.
Really? Does it actually say that? I've only ever seen your clock is behind.
Mine is 1.1 seconds behind. That seems like a lot.
Well,
Get an Apple computer, everybody.
Sam's closer to GMT, right? So
That
doesn't mean anything.
He is time. He's the only father on this podcast, therefore he is Father Time.
And also the oldest member of the team. Youngest at heart.
You are the only one who actively uses TikTok that I know of.
Good app.
All right, when are we clapping?
Yes.
We do
40.
so we
45.
pick a time and then we do exactly 5 seconds after that time too. So 2 claps.
So,
Oh,
So
wow.
like 40, then 45.
yeah.
Okay, so let's do 50, 55.
I thought you were going to drop 45 on us. Okay.
No, I was scared.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes after we clap, I just go, okay, done. And I click the stop button.
Well, applause means it's over, right? So
I didn't do it this time, but
In school, when they're like, all right, don't applause. You can do 1 clap for each person that gets announced. That's all you can do.
wait, is that a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes when they're like, we have like 30 people to get through, and if we all wait for you all to stop clapping for each person, or if it's like a graduation or something, they're like, you can't have like standing ovation for every single person. You can do 1 clap, and then we'll move on to the next person, and then at the end you can do your big celebration.
That must be a US thing. I've never run into that one.
Just
Nobody
like in
claps in
class,
British
like
schools. It's just
school
polite nods.
In here, we just say a bunch. So
Do people nod vigorously at the people they like more?
Yes.
stuff.
Okay.
But
Quite
not too vigorously.
indubitably.
That's frowned upon.
Okay.
All right. How am I starting this? What is my moniker for today?
So you say, hello, everybody. Welcome to Gaming Fix. I mean, you do it every week, but like,
No. I mean, well, yeah, I know that part. I gotta be your partner's favorite something this week.
wet sock.
oh,
Partner's favorite wet gamer.
yeah.
Yeah, my wet gamer moment. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's light this wet sock.
It's going to be hard to light it.
Indeed. Hello and welcome to episode 134 of the Gaming Fix podcast on August 15th, 2020. I'm your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite wet gamer moment. I am joined today by Alex,
My sock landed in a toilet.
Pat,
I'm like when you spill Mountain Dew game fuel on yourself, and then like Doritos. That's the wet gamer moment that I am.
okay, Allison,
Gonna be controversial and say Super Mario Sunshine's my wet gamer moment.
Hell yeah.
Erica Hernandez,
There's a wet ass gamer joke here that I don't want to make.
wet gamer ass. That's not good.
Oh no.
Sam,
as a new father, I'm often wet, and it's not often my fault. However, I'm dry at this moment. I'm having a dry gamer moment.
and a special guest this week, all the way from Giant Bomb, we've got producer extraordinaire Jan Ochoa.
I have emerged from the lakes of gaming Minnetonka to be a guest on your podcast, and I'm nothing but honored to be here. I'm getting my fix of podcasts on your podcast.
Thanks for
Thank you
being
for having
here.
me.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we heard that you like podcasts that are 3 hours.
Okay. Yeah, I have like at least a criteria of like 4 or 5 things, and then y'all approached me that it's at least 2 to 3 hours. You have more than 5 folks on the pod, and I don't remember what else I said, but y'all are checking off every single tick box, and I'm making more internal check boxes in my head, and y'all are continuing to tick those off. Topical with the wet ass, I'm not gonna finish the sentence. Fun Zoom backgrounds, that's another thing I've thought of, and then pianos in the background. How did y'all know?
Sometimes you just mesh with people. You listen to their podcast enough, and you're just like, I know this person.
We're
You think
all
you know
drift
them,
compatible
and
now.
Yeah,
I want y'all to
exactly.
know that.
When we need to build a much bigger Jaeger, we can all do like a Megazord Jaeger, where we need 6 people to drift together, or 7 people in this case. Then we'll be good.
And the chamber's constantly wet. It's moist.
Yeah, it's
Support 7
like
people.
an
They need to
Evangelion.
spritz it.
Yeah, like an
yeah,
Evangelion.
the gamer fluid. Yeah, the gamer fluid.
Oh no, and it's just not.
I don't
blue.
ever want to hear the term gamer fluid again in my life.
I was wearing an Evangelion t-shirt like 20 minutes ago, but it got wet. So that's a weird.
It all connects.
Full circle, baby.
Wow, that is
I'm
not
sorry already for
expect
being on
this.
your podcast. I can
Oh
leave
no,
now.
this is not your fault. We would be on Wet Gamer Moments regardless.
This is clean for us.
This is very
Unless
on brand for us.
Unless there was some sort of butterfly effect where you getting on your computer this morning like made a butterfly flap its wings and created a gust of wind that propelled Alex's sock into a toilet in
I
Canada.
mean, we can never know.
You never know. It's true. Other things you can never know.
We have a long list of games. Holy crap!
We do have a long list of games.
Earlier in the week, Sam was like, maybe we should all just focus on bringing one thing, especially if we're going to have Jan on. And then everyone, including Sam, put more than one thing. Except
Yeah, not
for
me.
you and Erica.
I don't have much to say about my 2 games, if that helps.
No, I need to hear about the first thing you have listed here.
Oh yeah, well let's start there. Let's give Jan the information he needs. Keep checking these boxes.
I
for him.
value family, so there you go. Another
We're a
check
family
box.
on this podcast.
Oh man, that would have been such a great Fast and Furious. They should have made Fast and Furious a Destiny, like where you like your group of friends that you play with is your family, and you're building a like.
And then they all die because they all stop playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Fast and Furious Crossroads came out.
Yeah, and it's not a tie-in to the Britney Spears movie Crossroads, which
that's
obviously
a
made
shame.
me very upset.
Yet, they mess with that timeline in those movies. It could happen still.
That makes a lot of yeah, you're right.
Maybe it's a prequel.
It's also the worst driving game I've ever played.
Oh,
It's a driving game.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
that's like
it's
the one
fully a
thing you'd
driving
want to
game.
get good.
Yeah,
It's by the Project Cars people, so you'd expect that it would have good driving. right?
So it feels like they were like they made Project Cars and they're like, okay, let's make an arcadey racing game and slap some Fast and Furious color on it, but they didn't arcadey up the driving model, just like how you play. So like you'll often be like, okay, I'm just gonna like drift around this corner and the car will just do like a full 360 spin, or like sometimes you'll go to turn and it will just turn like on a dime, and sometimes it will be like, I'm doing this on video, it's terrible audio for everybody.
Like a grandpa,
build.
like grandpa turning his like 78 station wagon.
Yes, I definitely know what those things are.
Grandpas?
They
They're
don't
not
have those in
grandpas.
the UK.
Huh.
Yeah, they're called, I can't think of a good royal pun, but like, you know. So Sonequa Martin Green is good, obviously. She's great in Star Trek Discovery. Fine CBS product, from memory. Yeah, so she's really good. And Vin is obviously great as normal. But there's some weird stuff like the Vin character model's head turns a bit too far in one scene, like turns a bit too far around, and I was watching it like it drives badly. It's not fun to play in any way, shape, or form.
Wait, so when you say when you say it turns too far, is that kind of like the Mass Effect GIF or video where you see like Commander Shepard's head doing a full 360 before he reaches wherever he goes?
No, it wasn't a glitch. It's clearly intended. But like, you know how when you look over your shoulder, like this is it. This is the thing. He goes like a bit further forward. It creeped me out.
That's just a
lot.
function of Vin Diesel's neck. Maybe he can just do that.
Vin Diesel doesn't have a neck.
That's what I mean.
His whole body turns.
How is it as a Fast and Furious product? Like the driving is not great, but like how's the family? How's the stunts?
Yeah, do you
How's
do
the-
any heists, any fun things? Is Ludacris constantly in your ear? Because I need to know this.
So Ludacris does not feature in the game.
Oh, I'm out.
It's got Michelle Rodriguez, Vin, and Tyrese.
Fully out.
Not even Han? I get like, come on.
No. Han's dead. Why would you say that?
No, he's not. He's in the trailer, and I'm pissed about it.
Is
I'm
Bow
not
Wow
pissed
in
that
the
he's
game?
alive. I'm pissed that they showed him in the trailer.
Fortunately, Bow Wow is not in the game.
Damn it.
I feel like if Bow Wow had been in it and had his Hulk car, that would have been like easy top 10 game of the year recommendation, like slip in at the bottom.
That should be a skin for the Avengers game. Is for
Where
the Hulk.
Hulk is
It's
just a car?
that car.
No, it should just be Bow Wow. He should be the Hulk. It's one of the skins.
No, it's Bow Wow in the car.
Oh, so the Hulk is like a Zord robot Gundam now, huh?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd go for
That
that.
probably exists. That's got to exist.
How would you feel
there was
if
a Marvel Mangaverse?
if this game was tied into? Well, is this game like canon? Is this supposed to be some like side events that I need to know before the next movie comes out?
So I'm gonna finish it because it's only 5 hours long. I played through half of the game in yesterday evening. So like I hope it ties in because Sonequa Martin Green is great, and I would love to see her in a Fast and Furious movie. But like, it's not very good. And the story is very Fast and Furious. They're going after an ancient street racing gang.
This doesn't sound like Fast and Furious.
That's
Horse carriages? They'd catch up pretty fast.
Yeah, that's pretty ancient.
They're named Tadakul, which means crossroads in ancient Hebrew or something.
they're
And they're like, oh, we've got to catch
What?
the Tadakul.
that's
Why?
Back
The
in.
first
They,
mission
like,
in the
yeah.
game. The
Did
first
they
mission of the game has you
steal
playing.
some like nuke or something?
Not yet. There is no nuke. Somebody owes them money. It's like the basic pitch of the first couple of missions.
That's
But they're
some
driving
potatoes for
cars?
this crew now.
So the very first mission in the game, you're playing as Vin in the Vin Diesel car, the big muscle car, and Letty is in like a car with a giant harpoon launcher on the roof, and you're racing on a motorway trying to catch a Tadakul agent who's driving a tank. And like the goal is to like, so Vin has to like wheelman fight cars off the road, and then you can switch to play as Letty and use the grappling hook to try and take the tank down. So it's really cool. Like the opening mission is a great concept, and if it handled well, I probably would have really enjoyed it. And then like Vin has like spikes on the wheels that you're using to like try and damage the tank tracks and like catch this Tadakul agent. And then you have this really cool over the top action sequence, and then they're like, okay, and now we're going to go and you're going to be Sonequa Martin Green, who has a tow truck, and she is going to pick up a Prius and tow it to her friend's garage. So like it's a bit of a roller coaster.
Fast and Furious, I think of driving a tow truck to pick up another car. Like,
But you did mention Wheelman, and then the first thing that came to mind was the 2009 video game starring Vin Diesel.
That's what I was referring to.
Okay, great. So if it was more like the
it has
Wheelman, I
car
would also be
fighting.
in. That's kind of
So, you know, in Wheelman, you could like left bumper to like shunt cars.
yeah.
It has that. It has bumper shunting for cars,
So
but only
it's-
when you're Vin Diesel.
So it's Vin Diesel Fast and Furious bumper cars. Got it.
So what does Tyrese do? Does he just like? Does he have
It's like
Ejecto
over 2 hours
Seato?
and he has not turned up.
Oh,
Over 2 hours in, he's not turned up.
But it's only 5
there is
hours?
a really good. Yeah, the game's only 5 hours long.
I don't know.
and it's $60.
game.
How can they get away with this?
So I believe
It has a $30 season pass as well.
Yes.
By the way,
What?
it is a
What?
competitive multiplayer game. In fact,
Oh,
Yeah.
What? How?
it's car fighting.
Oh.
So there's the other cool part is that there's a lot of references to Too Fast Too Furious, like a lot of references to it. So
Wait, how are there a lot of references to Too Fast Too Furious if Paul Walker and Tyrese aren't like?
Tyrese is in it. He's in the credits, but I've not
but he
seen
hasn't-
him.
Yeah, so how are they making references to Too Fast Too Furious if Ludacris, Paul Walker, and Tyrese aren't in the game so far?
So when you go to Sonequa Martin Green's house, she's like, they're like, oh, that's a nice car. And she's like, oh yeah, I fished it out of a lake in Florida. And it's a blue Mustang, from the end of Too Fast, Too Furious.
Wow.
And people are like, oh, can you used to run with Suki, right? You raced with Suki? And so they're just constantly referencing Too Fast, Too Furious for some reason.
That's a bold decision, considering that is like far and away the worst Fast and Furious movie.
I still put it above 4, but
That's fair.
I can see why people would make that argument.
I think the same. I think 4 is probably the worst.
I mean, I'm not going to argue, but wow.
So as someone, I think Allison, you might be in the same boat as me, as someone who's never seen Fast and Furious, any of the movies, and I know that's blasphemous. We've covered that in previous episodes, but should I play this game with no context? Like, would it make any sense?
Absolutely. It's just not a very good game. And the story, I think the story will probably make sense without knowing anything about Fast and Furious, because it's like there are tie-ins, but I feel like you would just know enough based on like osmosis of basic Fast and Furious concepts that essentially Fast and Furious is now Ocean's 11 with Vin Diesel instead of George Clooney.
That's the only difference.
Or you could take those 5 hours and you could watch Fast and Furious and Too Fast Too Furious and maybe even part of Tokyo Drift.
I watched all of them over one weekend. Like you can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the life.
Yeah, I watched
again this weekend.
Yeah, I watched all of them over one weekend, one time. I've only done that once, for sure. Not several times.
You can watch it with a fine podcast called Film and 40s from the fine people over at giantbomb.com.
That's exactly how I watched it. So
Did you participate and have your own 40?
I did.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
They don't
maybe
sell
had
those
to.
over here, but I had like several beers.
You know, I've never actually watched it with that commentary before.
Recommend.
Well done.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that films in the UK are like a few microseconds faster because of like, or at least they were back in the day. So when I tried to watch Too Fast, Too Furious, my copy kept going ahead and ahead and ahead of Giant Bomb.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
You got to see Ejecto Seato before they did.
I did.
What? Okay, well, never mind.
There's just a scene where Tyrese yells "Ejecto Seato," cuz and he makes a guy fly out of his
pushes
car
an
with an
ejector
ejector seat.
I know y'all have a lot on your docket here,
No,
but
don't
may
worry
I
about it.
tell a quick anecdote about Ejecto
Yes.
Seato?
Please.
Go for it.
Yes.
So I used to work for a television show where they try to bust myths. And then after that show ended, we had a smaller show looking for a set of new hosts, whereas reality show style of like, all right, we're going to find the next 2 hosts by eliminating one of you a week. And one of the first myths we made them do, and it's not really a myth, we just made them build an ejection seat from a car. And it was the most terrifying thing watching a bunch of not novice engineers and welders, but potential
Less
TV
experienced?
hosts. Yes. Put together hydraulic tanks in the back of cars with heavy metal plates trying to build an ejection seat. And funny enough, one of our test dummies was a small John Cena doll.
Like how small? Like
It was like
1/6 size, or
once, no, maybe like 1/7 the size of John Cena.
okay.
So like a normal human then.
Yeah. And so the funny thing was, yeah, one of his like biceps. So it's like a small child. The funny thing was, we showed the clip of Tyrese saying Ejecto Seato cuz, but then we couldn't say it on the actual episode because we couldn't get the rights to that clip.
Oh no.
So it started out as like, all right, yeah, it's going to be a tie into the Fast and Furious. Maybe we'll get Tyrese for the actual thing. And then none of that panned through. So we had to go back in ADR. Instead of saying Ejecto Seato, we had to say an ejection seat.
Aw.
It was a great time. It was a great time.
Nice. Well, hopefully we don't get sued by Vin Diesel and Tyrese for me saying Ejecto Seato too many times.
If Vin Diesel and Tyrese want to sue us, they have to come on the show to deliver the paperwork.
Oh, that's how it
Deliver the
works. Okay.
subpoena themselves. You know what? Like Han, I went to Japan because there's no extradition. I don't think
There you
that's
go.
true. But speaking of Japan, you also brought another game, Sam, from Japan.
Yes. So this year and like the end of last year, I've been playing the Trails of Cold Steel series. I've talked about it a lot on the podcast. I think I bullied Jan on Twitter to try and play it.
And it worked.
Uh-oh.
You've infected my mind.
I'm in Trails of Cold Steel 3, and like the Cold Steel 1 and 2 are like an incredible anime, and they have an incredibly really good anime ending to Cold Steel 1 and 2. But then Cold Steel 3 is like set sometime later, and it's like not a soft reboot, but like you start off with a load of new characters that you don't really know. And
It's like Naruto Shippuden.
Maybe.
I think by the time you get to Cold Steel 3, if you've been playing the Trails series, you're on like Naruto Shippuden 4. Like you're
Is this
multiple layers deep on that.
Boruto instead of Naruto?
So you still play as Reen, but like it's a completely different setting. A lot of time has passed between the second and the third game. And like, I don't want to talk too much about this because I talked for like 45 minutes about Cold Steel 2 once.
After saying it would be like 2 minutes.
Yeah. So like the Cold Steel 3, I was really struggling to get into it, and I was kind of worried that I just wasn't gonna like it after having played, like, my goal was to play Cold Steel 4 on release this year, which comes out in the end of October. I'm like, okay, so I will get there, and then I will be able to talk about it at Game of the Year, and I'll give this amazing JRPG series some credit or some airtime. That was like my goal in playing the series because I loved the first two. And then I was like, oh no, what if the third one is terrible, or just that I can't get into it? And then it just turns out that they, like, after about 16 hours, they just throw all the old characters back in and get you straight back on the storyline. And it's awesome. So yeah, the update is that I am now actively loving Cold Steel 3, the same as I did the previous games. And all the character names are amazing. I met a character yesterday who is referred to as the Jaeger King.
I love it.
All right.
And Bloody Shirley the Sanguine Ogre.
Okay. that is a good name. Wow.
Bloody Shirley is the cousin of Randy Orlando.
Okay, that is really good.
That's a fantastic name.
Yep. All the characters have great names, and they all have titles. Like the main
what is
character
Randy
ends up
Orlando's title?
Oh, he's just like a teacher, but everybody likes him.
I just literally had to Google Randy Orlando because I need to know who this character is.
He's extremely cool. He was one of the characters from the series of games that you can't play in the West. But I basically watched a YouTube recap and I feel fine.
I feel like Randy Orlando needs to not have sleeves.
Yeah.
I think he wears
And more
fingerless
of a
gloves
tan.
with his teacher uniform.
Oh, in these pictures I found, he is definitely wearing fingerless gloves.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
His full name is Randolph Orlando, and I don't know if I like that better or less.
A lot of the
What's his
students
middle
call him
name?
Mr. Randolph.
I don't know if there's a middle name, but
What if it was like Kenneth and then his ultimate was the RKO?
Ooh.
Fantastic.
He has a
I'm just
giant.
saying.
I think he has a giant axe. I think his weapon is like a polearm axe. Because
It looks like it's got a rocket on the end of it.
that makes a lot of sense. This is a game where it feels like it's in like a steampunk fantasy universe, and then mechs turn up. So like, it's great. Yesterday, I fought a giant magic mech, and the way that the main character like summons his mech is the coolest thing ever, and you don't do it for like the first 15 hours of the game, and then when it finally happens, I was just like, yes, it's happening.
Does it happen Titanfall style where it just grabs you and puts you inside?
No, there's like a teleportation effect essentially, but like he basically calls it down, and when he calls it down, it's like magic or something, and the camera angle changes every time that he calls it. So normally, like the camera angle is very normal and like straight on, and then he goes, Valamar, I summon you, and like the whole camera angle changes, and like you see the mech just flying down. It's very cool.
All right. Well, that's Cold Steel 3. You only have to play two games to get there.
That's if you're a coward. I own
real wet gamers who play the entire saga.
I haven't quite finished the first Trails in the Sky game, but I own it and both of the sequels and that Crossbell game that I had to buy from a Japanese website that I had to translate and then install a translation patch to eventually play.
So I just played Cold Steel 1, Cold Steel 2, and then I watched 20 hours of YouTube recaps to play Cold Steel 3. Well, I stopped after the end of Cold Steel 2 before I played the epilogue, which is set in one of the other games.
I didn't even process what you just said.
Jan, you said that Sam had somehow infected your brain and bullied you into playing these games.
Similar to Pat, I have purchased all of them and have played 1.5 of them.
Okay.
You're ahead of me.
When did you start this journey?
Well, so I had the dumb idea of, since giantbomb.com, a website about video games, since we're streaming around the clock, I thought, well, what if I just play like a JRPG for an extended period of time? And then I thought, oh, what if I just voice every single character? Because the first one doesn't have voice acting. And then that first episode was like 2 hours of me just doing a bunch of random voices. And then after I stopped recording, I had to reevaluate my life and what I value and my priorities.
Yeah.
So I haven't really touched the first game since then. And then I saw that Cold Steel 1 was on sale, and I thought, well, why not? And I saw Cold Steel 2 was on sale, and I thought also, why not? And then I eventually also bought 3 and have not popped into any of them, except playing the intro to Cold Steel 1, which was fantastic, and I had no idea what was going on.
The intros for the Cold Steel games are always set halfway through the game. Like, I think the intro for Cold Steel 2 might be set like hours and hours and hours. Like, no, the first one, the intro for Cold Steel 1 is set like 50 hours into the game. And then the intro for Cold Steel 3, I haven't caught yet, and I'm 20 hours in.
Wait, Sam, you said it's the trailer or the intro movie is about like halfway through the game and it's 50 hours in?
Yeah, the first game took me about 75, 80 hours. The second one took about 85-ish. And the third one, I'm told, is minimum 90 hours.
Oh, okay.
Endurance run. Endurance run.
No. We can't.
I don't think.
Okay, it's not on Giant Bomb content, so it's okay. You're safe. We wouldn't push that on you. But while we're here, I do hear you're pushing something with your feet.
Wow, fantastic segue.
Wow.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, everything I'm
this,
good
by the
at.
way.
It's not segues.
Oh, goddamn. Still 2 wheels. Have you ever seen
Yeah.
people on a Segway tour? They it's never looked cool. I
No.
apologize to anyone that's ever been on a Segway tour.
It's not
They're
cool.
Yeah, I recently picked up a Peloton with my partner. We went splitsies in an effort to try and lose the quarantine shelter in place weight we've gained. And I've always had a little extra Jan around the edges. The edges have been a little softer lately. So in an effort to not go outside and to try and stay active, we thought this would be a good way to do it. And I've never taken a spin class, and I've never had like a personal trainer type of deal. Like the closest thing I've had was like maybe when I was like in college and taking like a yoga class, like or when I was taking boxing classes. But I got to tell y'all, I was incredibly skeptical because I was thinking like, I don't need a freaking bike with this super positive fit person yelling at me. And then it turns out that was the thing to fill the void in my heart that I needed. I was like, I can't tell y'all how much I doubted that we needed this thing or that it would be useful, because I thought it's going to be one of those expensive tech things that you buy that just winds up collecting dust after a while, right? Like when the
Hanging your
Bowflex
clothes on it.
Yeah, exactly. When like the Bowflex boom in like the early 2000s happened, like I bet you there's 100,000 of those sitting in homes across the US just collecting dust with clothes on them, and just super rusty. But this has been like pretty freaking neat, y'all. And the instructors have been nothing but positive, and I've liked like 99% of them, which I absolutely hate. And I don't know if it's like the inner cynicist in me just waiting. It's like, just say something dumb. Just say something dumb. I hate you. Just be dumb. I hate. No, okay, I love you. And I don't know. Maybe it's like it's gamified in a way where you have a resistance meter, and that affects how hard it is to pedal versus your cadence, which is how fast you are pedaling, and then those numbers combine in some magical way to an output number, and that output number puts you onto some artificial leaderboard with other folks. And then at first I was trying not to look at it because I was thinking like, I got to work on myself and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then as I started feeling more comfortable, I started checking out the leaderboards, and then I'm just motivated to beat every single grandparent on that. And so there's a
like
feature
profile pictures so you can see the old ladies and like the young kids and
And so you'll see like someone super fit pose doing like a hot selfie like in a bikini and like an 8-pack, and then like right beneath them you'll see like Beth from her retirement home on her bike, and it's funny because you can high five people that are in the same ride with you. So there's live rides, there's on-demand rides, and sometimes on the on-demand rides there are people watching along with you, so you can choose to high five them, but sometimes I will purposely not high five someone that has high fived me back because I intend to destroy them on the leaderboards.
It's the gamer mentality.
Yeah. And speaking about what gamer, I've been sweating so much, and I think this like I picked up Ring Fit recently, and I was digging it. I was really liking my time with it, but I was a little concerned that the game isn't really checking my form, and I didn't want to build bad habits of like, okay, what if I'm not actually squatting correctly? What if I'm just like kind of like dipping my butt down instead of like the full extension you got to be doing? So I found this to be like a little bit of a gamification of trying to get fit, while at the same time instilling a weird sense of positivity in me that I almost don't like.
And it is like a service game in a way, right? Like there is a subscription.
Oh my God, you're right. It is.
Yeah, it's like $40 a month or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm so jealous. We don't have space for one, or else I would already have a Peloton.
It's fantastic, and like I am by no means sponsored by them unless they want to throw shoes at or fitness clothing at me. But that's the other thing. So I have wound up buying so much fitness clothes that I had never needed before. Like I would just wear like a pair of basketball shorts from the 8th grade because I was big then that still fits now, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, do I need this like Vegeta workout tank top?
Like the compression shirt.
Yeah. Maybe I do. And then I thought, like, do I need to buy this like singlet that looks like the Saiyan armor? Maybe I do.
Yeah, you do.
Are you buying workout clothes or Dragon Ball merchandise?
Yes.
Yes.
I never knew that the two worlds like converged like that. The Venn diagram is almost one circle.
Yeah.
As someone who went to a bodybuilding convention, I can tell you it is exactly a circle. There is Dragon Ball protein powder, officially licensed.
What?
Yeah, it's called like Super
How-
Saiyan 3000. It's great. I'll see if I can find a
Why
picture.
why isn't it over 9,000? Like, what are they doing?
That's Goku stuff.
Yeah, you can't be Goku.
Well, earlier this year, like early on in quarantine, like April, I was doing some stationary bike stuff too. Nothing fancy like you're doing. Just I picked up a stationary bike from a friend who was moving out of the country for like $25, and then was using that to get in some like JRPG time, playing Final Fantasy VII, the original. And then I was like, this is a little too slow. Maybe throw on some Assassin's Creed, just get some games in that I normally wouldn't play. And then I've fallen off of that, mostly because I went back to work and then started some more like shorter fitness stuff, because it's easier to fit in like 20 minutes instead of an hour of stationary bike.
That's probably like part of the benefit of something like Peloton is like, because I bought a recumbent stationary bike too, partly inspired by Andre, and like it was nice to have and I felt good using it, but then I totally fell off too, and it's frustrating because I'm having trouble like getting motivated to get back on it. And I think if there was that like competitive aspect and I was paying a subscription and stuff, it probably would be a little easier to force myself to keep using it.
Yeah, that's definitely been a motivating factor of, like I'm paying the $40 a month to have this like on live subscription service. And even though that I've just been doing on-demand classes, the instructor just staring at me and like telling me things and like forcing this positivity onto me, it just makes me feel oddly good. So if you need someone to be on a FaceTime call with you and yell at you and just scream nothing but positive things at you, I'm your guy.
All right. Well, can I pay you $40 a month?
No.
To do that while I'm on my recumbent
The
bike?
$40. I'll just have a bunch of pre-recorded things. And just like, all right, when you feel like you need to push more, just click the thing that says Jan push more.
All right.
You could make a soundboard, or you could start a Cameo.
God, Cameo is the best and worst thing in the world.
It really is.
Yeah.
Have you seen we don't have to go on a Cameo tangent, but have you seen the one where Mark McGrath broke up with this girl, like needed to break up with her long distance boyfriend, and so she paid Mark McGrath, and I think it was like his first video, to break up with him. And it's just Mark McGrath being like, Stacy loves you, man, but it's just not working out for her, buddy. And you got a lot of stuff going on for you, and that's going to be really exciting. You're going into your sophomore year of college. Everything's going to be great, but Stacy says it's just you and her are done.
If you were to pay a celebrity to break up with your significant other or like an ex relationship, who would you pay?
Gilbert Gottfried.
Bobby from Queer Eye is on Cameo, and I feel like that's pretty good.
Does it have to be
I
somebody
think he'd be
on
really
Cameo?
nice.
Any celebrity.
Any celebrity?
Pretty.
It
I
might
think
be.
Dan Reichert's on Cameo now, right?
He's a
is.
celebrity.
Of course he is.
I've almost bought Cameo from him like 1,000 times because they're like $30.
He's only
which is
had it
basically
for
nothing.
like he's had it for like 2 weeks. What do you mean 1,000 times?
Thinks about it
If you
a
have
lot.
a baby, 2 weeks is like 7 years.
Well, my girlfriend's Japanese, so it'd probably be some Japanese celebrity, like maybe one of their, I don't know, one of the more famous comedians. Get like Hamada or Matsumoto from downtown to do it.
It might be John Cena for me.
Oh
I
wow.
was trying to think of a better one than John Cena, but I keep coming back to Cena.
Jerry
at least
from
you could
Parks and
throw
Rec
in
is on it.
Cena could throw in some like positive like affirmations, like never give up.
Exactly.
It's okay. Stick in there. You'll
Andre,
come back.
if you're going for Japanese, why not just have like some version of simple and clean?
I don't want to. I wouldn't want to ruin
Single and clean?
Hikaru for my partner.
Single and clean.
Oh,
Oh, wow. I mean, is that like, when you break up with someone, don't you want it to be simple and clean?
You
Yeah.
do, but I don't want to like have to associate. I love that song. I've loved that song for like over a decade, and I don't want to like
It's your
tarnish it.
sanctuary.
Yeah, it's
It
my
wasn't
sanctuary.
tarnished by Kingdom Hearts 3.
No, because it's not in Kingdom Hearts 3.
No, the song Kingdom Hearts 3 is extremely good, though, and we don't have to relitigate that. Just know that I'm right.
Is that the Skrillex one?
Hell yeah. it's
That's
really
the opening one. I like it
slaps.
until it gets
Are
to
you kidding me?
I like it until it gets to the Skrillex. I don't like Skrillex.
Oh, the Skrillex part's
the
great.
ending song. No, it's the ending song is also good.
But anyways, how about for you, Jan? Who would you choose?
Oh, John Cena is a good pick. Oh boy. I feel maybe like Barack Obama, because like, wow, you got a former president to do this. All right, I'll save this at least.
You can't even be
Respect.
mad at that point.
You give him a good story.
Yeah, and then like he'd started with like my fellow Americans, and then he just like gets real personal and he like puts his knee on the chair and goes like, well, Jan just wants to let you know it's not working out. And then I'd pay extra to have him just like recite simple and clean, because now that's if I ever end any relationship
When
with
you
her.
walk away, you don't hear me say.
Oh.
Okay, now I need to find a Barack Obama impersonator.
Yeah,
Make this happen.
Key and Peele to do.
Yeah,
This
okay.
is getting really expensive.
I changed my answer. I'll get Key and Peele to do it as Obama and his anger interpreter.
okay.
Oh God, that's perfect. Honestly,
Yeah,
So
the
many layers.
The Peloton sounds great.
You see now how
Ridiculous.
we
I
have
want one.
3-hour podcasts.
Oh, it's fantastic.
We have fun.
Well, oh boy, I just don't even know where to go from here.
The only way's up, baby.
I've never heard of Erica's thing. What is Twinfold? I've never heard of this.
Okay, so Twinfold, I just found out it's on Steam, but it's
I've
a
played
mobile
this.
game, mostly, I think. And it's like Threes, but a roguelike.
Yeah.
But it's
Sick.
really fun. So like I've been really, really busy this week with like paper writing, so I haven't been playing anything except in the bathroom. And this is the game to do that. It's really fun. It's like the way it works is you're kind of like, squishing two numbers together, but they're like little gold guys instead. And when you do that, first the number gets bigger, but also the layout of your grid changes too, and usually a new enemy may pop up, or and there's usually like a hole somewhere on the board too for you to drop some enemies into if you want to. It's very cute. Like, I'm not usually a roguelike person because I don't have the patience for, oh, now I have to start over. But this is like one of those ones where it's very quick to pick up and it's kind of quick to get going again. All the enemy types are interesting. Like, I like the sounds in it too. The sound design is fun. I don't know. There's not much to say about it except that it's very cute and it's like $4. So that's in my price range because unemployed.
If I recall, it's interesting the way it introduces its like different mechanics, because it like kind of unfolds with complexity as you play it.
It does. I remember like there's like a tutorial at the beginning, and then at some point he's like, so that's most of it, but I could probably tutorialize more of this, but I'm just not gonna.
Yeah.
So,
That's
which I can respect, but and figuring it out is fun. Like every time I see a new enemy type, I'm like, oh crap, what does this guy do? And yeah, for the most part, like there's only one enemy type that I just hate getting and dread getting all the time, and it's like one that like pushes you. Like the rest of the time you're pushing everything else, and this one will push you into stuff, and that's like the only one I just like cannot deal with and hate whenever I get there. But it's usually a little bit later into a run, which is of course when you don't want it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's really it's fun. I like a lot of the choices for like your skills that you get are like things like, you know, just you can float over the holes. The guys you swipe together can float too. That's like another one. Yeah, I don't know. It's very much a good bathroom game. It's a good, like, I have 5 minutes before I got to get on this thing for school, and I just want to wait for, or if, you know, people are late to stuff and you got to just like wait for everybody to come in and whatever. But like, that was not a dig at Sam. Sorry, Sam.
For when Sam's late to the podcast and you have 10 minutes to spare.
But yeah, it's cute. I like it.
It's a good before bed game too. I mean,
yeah,
as long as you have the self-control to say, I'm done now, and not start another run.
But like, that's the thing
I'm
too.
not
Is
good
that
at that though.
yeah, like that's what happened to me last night, and it's like, and then I got like I was having my best run ever. So like I just could not go to sleep at that point because I had to keep going. So
that's why.
Yeah, that's not the best in that case, but
that's why I have not been playing good Sudoku, because I played good Sudoku in bed.
Oh man, I've been playing that game too this week. Can we talk about it for like 2 seconds? I'm sorry, it's not on our list, but like
yeah.
But I really like good Sudoku also. It's like
it's good.
It's very good. It's really good. It's really satisfying. I don't love all of the directions all the time. Like I feel like sometimes like when it's like teaching me something a little bit more complicated, I end up having to look it up myself because it's like, because of this square, these do this. And it's like, why though? Why because of this square? And that's my only criticism about it. But I love the sound design on that too. It's got like a lot of fun cash register noises that are really satisfying and wonderful.
The UI is very chunky too, in a way that I like a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I was just looking up Good Sudoku because I haven't really heard of it, and I didn't realize it was made by Zach Gage.
It was.
Cool.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
it's also free, but I paid for it because the ads are longer than it took me to do most puzzles.
Oh yeah.
At the beginning.
I ended up paying for it too because I was just like, you know, well, I mean, it's the type of game where I don't feel bad about paying the money. Like there are certain mobile games where you're like, this feels kind of cheap, but this is just like, here I made a good game. You can pay for extra stuff if you want. So. Yeah.
And like nearly unlimited content, like more boards than you want. Like
yeah, I was like looking through all of the like the number of puzzles in each of the categories that are already there, and it's like there are a lot of puzzles that are in this game.
Yeah.
It's apparently was made because Zach Gage and I forgot the name of the person that
Jax Schlesinger.
Yes, they were both interested. The story I heard anyway was that they were both interested in learning Sudoku and learning like the more intricate elements of Sudoku beyond the surface level. And there just weren't any good apps that did it. And so that is why they made an app called Good Sudoku, because they wanted there to be a good Sudoku app.
This is that. It's very good.
Yeah.
They're very literal with he's very literal with the games he makes between that and ridiculous fishing.
Yes.
Really bad chess.
Really bad chess too, yeah.
Yep.
I miss ridiculous fishing. I wish that it wasn't just lost the annals of iOS updates.
No update.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to our next person today, and let's go with Alex. What did you bring to the class today?
Oh boy. So let's go for the one that you and I have definitely played, Andre.
I think Pat has also played this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I put a bit of time into Mixolumia, and
Oh, this is neat.
Yes.
yeah, we were talking about it last week. It's well, Andre specifically was talking about it last week,
It
and
dropped like an hour and a half before, or 2 hours before we recorded. So
Yeah.
yeah. So and it's something that I think we as a group have kind of been watching, like the development of via that Twitter thread, which I think we've also linked since.
yeah,
And it's
I think The Verge ran a story on that thread too.
yeah, I did see that, which is super awesome. And Dan, the creator, like looked at it and was like, what? I wasn't expecting anyone to look at my Twitter like this. Now I'm scared, but also this is rad. But what? But yeah, no, the very short version, if anyone hasn't heard of it and didn't listen to last week's podcast, is it's a puzzle game. It's it's taking place inside what you can consider a diamond, or like a gem or something. So it's not a flat
Prism
bottom
of some sort.
Yeah, so like take a square, turn it 45 degrees, and then it's like the bottom is not flat, and everything you're doing is kind of at angles. And then it's kind of like a Puyo Puyo, or even a Dr. Mario in some ways, in that you're always getting the same shape, but it's the different colors inside of it that matter. And you drop it down, and then it'll fall at different angles. Yeah, and it's awesome. It's really cool because it is a totally new kind of puzzle. Like, it's not cribbing from Puyo, it's not cribbing from Tetris. Like, you have to kind of rewire your brain when you're thinking about it a little bit, because you're learning a new puzzle. You're like, oh, if I was playing Tetris, I would totally be trying to set up something on this side. Or if I was playing Puyo, I would be setting it up like with these alternating colors so that when it all falls down, it's like, oh, boom, 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 boom. But that kind of works here, but not exactly. So like my first couple rounds, I was like, oh, I'm getting this. And then all of a sudden I was at the very top and lost. I was like, wait, what? Oh no. But yeah, as you get a hang of it, it's really fun. It's really cool. The sound stuff is really interesting in that like you can add custom sound packs. Andre linked to the one, I think, where it was just like a bunch of air horns and guns and stuff like that, which I thought was hilarious.
They had like some music, and then whenever you dropped the block, they didn't have anything for that yet, so they just put in a gunshot for when you drop the blocks.
I just realized that I need a sound pack that is just sicko mode.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
But in that puzzle.
I wanted
to play that like bass drop as I'm dropping pieces.
So part of it is, as Alex mentioned, people can make sound packs for the game, and there's like very robust documentation on the itch page where you can read about the process and how to do it. And like 2 hours ago, the creator sent out a Twitter thread saying, well, here's an embarrassing story. Someone would message me saying that my documentation is wrong because they wrote it for how they thought that it worked and like how they like envisioned it in their head, their programming all working. And then they're like, this isn't working right. And then they went back and tried to check out the programming. They're like, this isn't what I said it was. And they tried to make it how they said it functioned, and it doesn't work right. I have to change the documentation, not the code, because it just wasn't coming out sounding right. That's very
amazing.
Interesting.
That's super funny. And as a coder,
they added this sentence to the end of the documentation. The way this happens is through magic and nonsense, and no one should attempt to understand it.
Yep.
That's game development, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. And also like, yes, that is game development. I'll talk about that in my next game. But also they have a really cool thing where you can make your own custom like color schemes and stuff like that, basically through editing like hex codes in a JSON object. So like it's a weirdly modular game, like that you can just kind of customize to be however you want. And it works really well. Yeah, I totally worth supporting. Awesome developer and a really cool little puzzle game. If you all have,
like we always like to talk about too, that modular stuff is true from an accessibility standpoint as well, because you can pretty much change all of the rules of the game to suit whatever is comfortable for you, both in mode select, because they have several different modes, including one that's just like a chill, like just play and it's endless and there's no fail state. But then you can also drill into the options and actually change like the time, the score it takes to increase the speed. You can change all of that stuff, which is super, super cool and like makes so much sense in this kind of puzzle game. And it's wild to me that I hadn't thought of that before as a thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Super cool.
So yeah, Mixolumia. We can probably leave it there. We talked about it a lot last week.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you'll like it.
Yeah, it's good. I'm probably going to continue playing it. It is a good, kind of like Erica said, a good pick it up for 5 to 10 minutes and then just set it aside for whatever else you need to do with your life. So, however, it's not on phones. Maybe it will be someday. But the other game I brought is, do you remember, I don't remember if it was like a month or so ago, we talked about IOX2, which is the Indie Obscura thing. And there was probably a list of like 5 or 6 games that I had brought. I was like, oh, these all seem really interesting. Like they have a lot of promise. Maybe it'll be really good and worth checking out. And the game I brought was one of those. It's called Into a Dream. So quick, what is that game? If you haven't seen that or haven't heard us talk about it, it's this stylized kind of side-scrolling walking simi kind of thing with puzzly platformy bits, and it's kind of silhouetted. So like you can think of it like Inside or Limbo in that way. But it also has this fully voiced narrative, which is kind of reminiscent of games like Forgotten Anne or maybe even The Missing. But the story itself, the story it's telling, is the closest thing I can think of is like To the Moon. So to go back on that, like the style of something like Limbo, story delivery of something like The Missing, and a narrative like To the Moon, which pretty cool combo. And yeah, from like the trailers and stuff, I was like, yeah, that looks awesome. And then the elevator pitch of the game's actual setup is that you're playing as a character who is a psychologist who has entered another person's dreams. And you are tasked with helping them find their way back to some kind of mental stability. So, going into their dreams, there's your To the Moon. And to pull directly from the Steam page, quote, "You have been linked to the dream of Luke Williams, a man diagnosed with severe depression. You are Luke's last hope and must prevent him from," dramatic ellipses, "fading away." So, as the Steam page says, it's about mental health. This year we've played a lot of games that talk about mental health, and a lot of them have actually been really good. We grappled the topic quite a bit here, and usually emotionally charged stories. So, and this game, content warning up front, I guess, it does talk directly about depression and suicide and things like that. And speaking more meta level about the show, like speaking purely for myself, I know that I'm always willing to talk about my mental health struggles. Like I have diagnosed major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder and PTSD. So those are fun. And they're topics that are important to talk about and often stigmatized. And I think games often offer a fairly unique perspective in how they can tell stories about mental health, because they're able to elicit empathy in a player, because you're kind of inhabiting these characters and you're controlling them and you're guiding them through something. You're not passively reading or watching, you are actively controlling them. So the game itself, Into a Dream, was ejected from a solo developer out of Portugal.
Ejecto Seato, cuz.
Ejecto Into a Dreamo.
I bet that's exactly what he said when he put it up on Steam.
Precisely. But yeah, it's
is there?
No, sorry.
Instead of like a submit button, I wish it was just Ejecto Seato, cuz.
I'd get into game dev for that.
I'll add that to our code base. But yeah, no, made by a solo guy out of Portugal. His name is Felipe Tomas. He did everything, like coding, narrative, music, some of the voice acting. The whole thing is voice acted. So there are other voice actors, but overall the game is all him. So it's pretty ambitious. And honestly, there's a lot of really impressive work that he's put in. Like the visuals are often super striking. The music is really good. The narrative is non-linear in an interesting way. Like you're switching, like you're in a dream, so you're like going from the past to the present, or what you think is the present. Then it goes further than that. Then it goes back to like childhood and stuff like that. So, and the voice acting overall is pretty good, with some exceptions, but whatever. So with all of that being said and all that context, this is the part I'm going to have a hard time with, is that I don't think it's very good.
Oh no.
In fact, I think it's actually pretty bad. Which
everything you said up until that point sounded really interesting. So this is bummer.
Which is what I wanted
I
to
saw
give.
this.
Yeah,
I saw this coming.
Yeah, I wanted to give it as much respect as possible because, like, I know how much work goes into making games as a solo dev. Like, we've talked about it here before. I've worked full time as a solo dev. Like, I know how hard that is, and balancing your time, like knowing when to compromise, knowing when to say this is good or this is good enough. Like, we could go into a whole tangent about game development, but we'll do that another time. So, like, I get it. That's why I personally have a hard time being negative on a solo developed game. But at the same time, I don't have many positive feelings about it other than the visuals and the music. Like, I don't want to go into too much time because we have a pretty packed cast as it is. And I could go on and on about it, how, like, playing it, the act of playing it is at best mediocre and at worst terrible. Like,
So it is like The Missing.
Yeah, wait for it, Andre. Like, the controls are bad, the jumping is bad, the puzzles are bad, just everything about playing it feels bad, but, like, that's okay. I can excuse that. There's a bigger issue which does deserve at least a little bit of time for discussion, and that's that it isn't about severe depression. And that is an issue because the Steam page very directly calls that out, and, like, you can find...
I looked it up once you started talking about it, and I saw it, like, talking about depression. That seems like kind of the draw there.
Yeah, and that's where I have a problem with it. Like, that's my main sticking point. Like, the Steam page says it, like you said, you can find some interviews with the developer talking about its merits as, like, a psychological piece for people with severe and clinical depression. And I think to market it that way feels a little bit disingenuous and kind of gross in a way.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if, like, despite the game part being a little bit poor, if it, I guess, acted like, I don't know, cathartic in a way, or maybe it was cathartic for the developer, but if they're kind of marketing it as a tool of dealing with depression or other mental health issues, it's kind of interesting choice.
That's the tough part, is because I think it is coming from an earnest place, and I've listened to a couple interviews with him just to kind of get the context. And it sounds like he is coming from a place. He's stated that he does not suffer from depression. So it's like, okay, that's fine. He's talked with people who have, and it sounds like it's trying to kind of be an empathy piece in that way. And the conclusion of it just doesn't tie together. Like, the narrative is about someone who is going through a really hard time. Like, they're going through loss and guilt and having all these feelings of being judged for decisions they've made and stuff like that. And those are, like, the feelings they show are all really valid. Like, yes, you can feel depressed when you're in a situation like that, but that is significantly different than saying it's about having clinical depression. Like, situational depression, 100% a thing worth talking about, but that's a lot different than severe clinical depression. So, like, I'm going to spoil the end of the game here a little bit, sorry. But, like, the way it ends, basically, it says that Luke, the character who's depressed, gets out of his rough state. He seeks out psychotherapy and medication, and he's all better. Everything is fine. And it's like, now it is positive for a game to talk about the merits of, like, seeking help for mental health things. That should be destigmatized, and talking about it should be a good thing. And it does go out of its way to showcase things like cognitive distortions, which are real. You can read about that with cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff like that. But one of the things that's problematic to me is that, it just shows Luke just kind of getting over it. Like,
all better now.
Yeah, like, you spend some time with a psychologist and have some open conversations with the other people involved, and he was better. And it's like, you seeked help and now you're good. Yay. Like, that's not how clinical depression works, and it shouldn't
It'd be fun if
portrayed
that's how it worked.
Yeah, like, it doesn't just magically go away with effort. Like, it never goes away. And, like, yes, sure, it does show up during bad times and emotionally stressful situations like the one in the game, but clinical depression is always there. It's there during the good times too. Like, I have it right now. It's just very quiet and very under control. Like, it is good for a game to try and have the player feel empathy and compassion for someone who might be, like, feel down, or they're going through something you can't see. But to market a game as an empathy piece about clinical depression when it isn't that just feels wrong to me. And honestly, if it wasn't marketed that way, I probably wouldn't be bringing this up at all. I just would have written it off as kind of a mediocre to maybe kind of game, which is trying to shine some light on mental health topics without giving you too deep of an insight. But yeah, with how it is there, I can't recommend it.
Makes
That's
sense.
unfortunate.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Anyways, so that's Into a Dream. Unfortunately, probably don't play it.
Well, it sounds like you unmatched that game.
Wow.
Wow.
Pat,
Yeah.
tell us
that's a-
once again
that's a
about
segue.
this amazing board game.
I don't think I actually talked about it last week.
No, not last week, but you've talked about it before. But
I don't think so.
We've definitely talked about it.
Really? Have we?
once, yes.
Oh, well, I wouldn't have brought it again this week if I remembered that we talked about it once. But
It's okay, because the more you talk about it, the more I am fascinated with it.
it's really cool. So, Jan, let me ask you, who do you think would win in a fight? The Raptor pack from Jurassic Park or King Arthur?
I value teamwork, so I'm going to say the Raptor pack.
Is it?
That's
is
a
it
good.
just King Arthur versus like
It's
how
King
many
Arthur
Raptors?
and Merlin. King
Oh,
Arthur's
okay.
Merlin
Oh,
with
okay,
him.
but Merlin, that
Come on.
significantly changes things.
That is a
Yeah.
big difference.
I will tell you that because King Arthur's kind of lower tier in this game, the Raptors would definitely eat him up for lunch.
Fantastic.
But perhaps a skilled player could win. No, I mean, if I talked about it a little bit before, then I've kind of gone over it. But Unmatched is this. It's a board game. It is not a video game. Currently,
You can play it virtually though.
Well, that's the thing. Is in pandemic times, many board games have become video games through things like Tabletop Simulator and Tabletop Utopia and Board Game Arena. But I've been diving into it more and more, and it's a board game where you have two characters. There's a bunch of different packs of characters. Some of them licensed, some of them are just like from history, and or from like public domain fiction, and you smash them together. So like Invisible Man and Bruce Lee, for example. Really wild combinations of characters, really beautiful art and stuff. And the thing that I have been diving into that's been fun is they currently have a competition to have people design characters for Unmatched. You get to design 2 decks and submit them, and then the winners get paid, and they publish the 4 winning decks in a box set. It's going to come with its own board and stuff like that. So it's been really fun, and it's been fun to kind of come up with ways to sort of develop interesting characters for this, because it's very asymmetrical. It's a game that's about like, in the instance of the Raptors, there are 3 of them. Every other character is just like themselves with a little token for a sidekick. But the Raptors have to use teamwork, like you said, Jan. So it's been really fun. And I have been also playing it on Tabletop Simulator with some people. And it is something you can actually check out for free if you have Tabletop Simulator. And it's been really neat to think about game design from a perspective of like, I don't have to worry about the coding parts and like the parts that are hard for me. And I can just think of what would be cool. I don't think anybody else competing is listening to this podcast. So like the characters that I decided to do are Jesse James and Paul Bunyan, which was a lot of fun to think about how you take Paul Bunyan and make him into a person that could fight King Arthur or a pack of raptors. So yeah, I don't know. I recommend it if you're looking for something to like play with a friend. You do have to kind of be in a voice call to make it work on Tabletop Sim. It's not the kind of thing. It's not super automated. So you still have to say like, I am doing this now. But I would recommend checking it out. It's also fun if you are in a situation where you are living with a partner. If you can find the sets for it, because it's like a good one-on-one game. As long as you can handle like playing against the person that you're living with, it's really fun from that way. And their next set coming out is Buffy the Vampire set,
Oh, snap.
Yeah, so if you have any interest in Buffy the Vampire, it's got like Angel, Spike, Willow, and Buffy in it.
Say less, Pat. You just needed to say Angel, and then I'm all in, baby.
Yeah. And since like Dracula exists in it, you can have Buffy fight Dracula and stuff.
Oh man.
Okay.
Very cool.
Doesn't that happen in Buffy? Like it's like
Yeah,
Dracula, but
Yeah, well,
it's the Buffy version of Dracula. I've only watched Angel and like two episodes of Buffy. Like, what is wrong with me?
Nothing. Absolutely.
I watched
nothing.
all of Angel, 2 episodes of Buffy.
they're both very good. You should also watch the rest of Buffy.
Andre, I know what would get you to play this game, and that's if it had Master Roshi in it.
I mean,
No?
I'm not a big Roshi stan. Like when he gets big, when Roshi get big, that's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
He gets big, and I'm not gonna finish that sentence.
Big and veiny.
I think,
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
I think you could have some Dragon Ball characters. One issue that people have run into when designing, everyone wants to like immediately jump to characters like Cthulhu for this design contest, and it's like, yeah, but the thing is, they have to be characters that could conceivably fight each other. Like Sinbad the Sailor is one of the characters, and he is awesome in the game. Sinbad the Sailor probably not going to be able to fight like Cthulhu by himself. Well, I guess he has his porter with him as a sidekick, but
Probably can't fight Frieza.
It's not like an Injustice situation where everyone's affected by some sort of interdimensional
No.
portal
Well,
that makes them weak.
one of the nice things about it is there's not really any lore, so I guess you could say whatever you want. They are coming out with a T-Rex apparently.
Ooh.
That is their next Jurassic Park licensed piece. And what's cool about that set is it's a T-Rex versus Sattler, and Ian Malcolm is the sidekick for Sattler instead
Oh,
of
that's cute.
the other way around, which I think is
Okay, I
really
like
good
that.
because they're super committed to. They've talked about how like they're super committed to trying to make sure that they balance the number of men and women fighters in the game. And their last set, Cobble and Fog, was like Invisible Man, Sherlock Holmes, Dracula, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So there were no women in it, and they're like, we don't like that we did this. Please forgive us. And so they were committed to like doing Sattler as like the main character with Ian Malcolm as the side character, even though the like thing a lot of people would probably think is, oh, you got to make the Jeff Goldblum miniature. And it works very well. They're also doing things. They have some upcoming sets where they're working with cultural consultants to make sure that the characters that they represent in the sets are like good representations of their historic characters, because they're pulling from some places that are not. I mean, this is like a company based in Florida, so they're pulling from some places that they don't have experience with. I think it's really cool. It's something that I'd like to see more in the board game space, because there's like games out there like Spirit Island that get the cultural references that they're making. In that game, it's very much like Pacific Islander kind of indigenous peoples and spirit worship. But the developer of that game actually has experience with that, so they can kind of like pull from that. But there's a lot of board games that do that and they don't get it right, because people are like, oh, well, what would be cool is if we made a board game about Chinese medicine, and we're a bunch of white dudes that don't know how that works, but I've heard some things on the internet. Let's go. So
I've read about
props
Sun
to them.
Wukong once.
And
Let's do the Monkey King.
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, on that topic, if you were to create, we heard Pat's, Jesse James, and Paul Bunyan. If you were to create a deck or a character for Unmatched, what would you go with?
The major characters that Brendan Fraser has played.
So you got the person from The Mummy,
George of the Jungle.
I just watched that like 2 weeks ago. It still holds up.
So good. That movie's so good.
Brendan Fraser cinematic universe.
Oh, dude,
That was
the BFU.
Wasn't that one of
the
our
BFCU.
podcasts?
It's not the first time we've talked about Brendan Fraser. You're
I
right.
think we had George of the Jungle Fix was the name of one of the episodes.
We got into an
Yeah.
argument. So sorry, go ahead.
That's all
I think
I-
it's you.
Oh, okay. I got into an argument with my partner that The Rock is the poor man's Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, that's right. You're
And
right.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love The Rock. The Rock is probably one of my like all-time favorite wrestlers. But Brendan Fraser, could you imagine Brendan Fraser in Skyscraper with a fake leg?
Yes.
Exactly. It would
More
be
so
great.
than I could imagine The Rock in it, and The Rock is in it.
What if in Fast 5, instead of introducing The Rock as like Hobbs, it's instead Brendan Fraser?
Brendan Fraser in Fast and Furious would be amazing, and that should still happen. And
Yeah.
it's
Somebody
funny,
learned a deep fake.
I corresponded a bit with the developer of Unmatched to make sure that Jesse James was like cool, because they're trying to avoid like modern figures. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. And I was also like, oh, I'm also thinking about doing the Mummy maybe. And he was like, yeah, that's fine too, as long as you don't touch the newer Mummy film and you just focus on references to the original public domain one. But now I'm thinking, I obviously didn't go with the Mummy. They should license a Brendan Fraser cinematic universe pack and just do all of those characters.
Get
And it's just like you get like
That'd be pretty rad.
Brendan Fraser miniatures. That would
Oh
be
man.
really good.
and make sure that there's Ben from Scrubs in there too.
Deep cut.
All right.
It's very
He's good in
Is that
Doom
your
Patrol.
choice?
He's very good in Doom
He is.
Patrol.
Is that your choice, Alex? The Scrubs.
No. So I was gonna say these have to be real life figures, but then you mentioned Cthulhu, so no.
no, yeah,
they don't have
could
to be
all
real.
kinds of
They
fiction.
can be fictional. They can be.
And
But-
they have some licensed ones, obviously, with Buffy and Jurassic Park. So,
Back when I was deep in Dota, because that happened years ago.
Deep in
Oh
Dota.
God.
Yeah,
I'm
there was a
sorry.
character. We talked about doing like fan fiction characters, and one of them was from an anime, from Madoka Magica. Oh wait, no
Oh,
shit.
man.
If I talk about it, it's going to spoil that anime.
I think you're good, but also you from my money. But
Okay, anybody who doesn't want spoilers for that, take off your headphones, skip ahead 30 seconds. There is a character in that show that can manipulate time. And
Okay.
yeah, I think it would be
I'm
awesome
out.
if you could have a character who could like turn back the board like one turn or something like that. Like the way we had it in Dota is like if you could just move the game timer back like 10 seconds as their ult or something like that. And then
so what you want is a share pack.
I don't know. Wait, like share as in like, do you believe in life after love?
Share as in if I could turn back time.
Oh, yes. Okay, share. Let's we'll say share. Okay.
Yeah,
Cher,
you want
that's my
Cher
person.
with Sunny as the
Listen,
sidekick.
I know that they don't want modern stuff, but Cher and Mamma Mia too. Could that be it? Because
Yeah, that is a whole mood.
Okay, yeah, no,
Yeah.
you swung me around. Share. I want.
All
Cher.
right, cool. I'll
Okay.
email the developer who I now have a open email thread with.
Allison.
I mean, Cher and Mamma Mia too. Just
Okay. Sam, you're
votes.
muted. Are you
Erica, who
unmuted?
would-
Okay,
who
well,
would you-
Erica, in the meantime.
Could we get like a K-pop license? Because I'm
Yeah,
thinking
that'd be
about
good.
like the scariest
good.
K-pop idols I know. Like Irene from Red Velvet is like number one for me.
I mean,
Only-
considering how many Red Velvet videos are about like murdering people,
Yes,
like
right. That's where I'm at.
I mean, it could work.
The only difficulty is that with the exception of the Raptors, everybody else is like one model miniature and then tokens for their sidekicks to differentiate who's the main person, who's the sidekick. So you need to be able to really sell them on, I think, equal model representation for each member of a K-pop group, which could get
Yeah, I mean,
crowded.
Irene's the leader, so we could have Irene, and then all the tokens can be like. I mean, Wendy's out; she got fucked up, she got injured real bad.
yikes.
You know, and then we just have Joy and Yeri. It's okay, it's fine.
Sam.
My microphone
Spider-Man.
just died somehow. So
You're gonna say
So your
Spider-Man.
character would be a phone charger.
no, don't know what's going on. I said my microphone just died, so don't know what's going on there. I'm gonna have to start recording again. But I would have said the Phantom.
That's a good poll. That's a good poll.
He's not public domain, but he's old as shit. And also Billy Zane, the actor who played the Phantom from his appearance in Zoolander, would be my other suggestion. So it's basically a Billy Zane double pack.
The Billy Zane verse.
Yeah. It's a good double pack because Billy Zane is great, and also Billy Zane as the Phantom. The Phantom has built-in backup. He's got Garan. There's a good generational mechanic.
Okay. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima right now, so I've got like samurai on the brain. So like Nobunaga would be cool, or you can go Lu Bu, should just be
Lu Bu, I think,
too OP, impossible to defeat.
I think they should do a romance pack for sure. That would.
Or Scooby Doo.
Oh, Scooby Doo would be so good. Damn.
And like the figure
Courage
on the
Cowardly
board,
Dog. That'd be
the figure on the board could just be the mystery machine.
Air Bud.
And the Air Buddies.
Yeah, the possibilities are truly endless.
God.
You got the Raptor pack. You got the Air Buddies versus the Raptor pack. Who wins now?
I'm going to change my answer to just the money plane from Money Plane.
A Frasier pack.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh god.
Only if Niles is actually the lead character, though.
Yeah.
There's
How about Stuart Little?
Yeah.
Little high, little ho.
Yes.
Speaking of Frasier, one of my friends at work is going to fail one of his yearly goals because Frasier hasn't got a trailer.
What's his yearly goal that depends on Frasier having a trailer?
So we have page-weighted coverage. So like titles, like Frasier's is one of the top 100 titles on IMDb, and every top 100 title has to have a trailer, but there was never a trailer produced for Frasier. So he's going to fail his yearly goal. He's having to relitigate it with his boss.
You should just cut together a Frasier trailer.
Yeah. And
Done.
It's got to be official.
For context, Sam works at IMDb.
Jan, do you need to go? Or are you good for a little bit longer?
I'm good to keep rocking for
All right.
until I can't think of anything that rhymes with rocking.
Just scream directly into your microphone like a velociraptor
Okay,
whenever you need to go.
Actually, semi-related, a former coworker at Mythbusters, for whatever reason, told me like, "Hey, Jan, you know what you should do with your partner one day? Just like when you're just cuddling and just watching a movie or just sitting calmly, you should just grab them by the shoulders and just yell into their face full volume." And then I asked him like, "Why would you do that?" And he had said, "Well, it's a memory that you'll both share for forever," and just not explain. Just not explain it.
I mean, that's not
They are
technically wrong.
Yeah. So, if I wind up gripping like my camera and just yelling, I just want you to know
It's a
I
memory
want
we'll
all of
It's
us
a memory we'll share.
we'll all share for forever.
I want you to
Remember
know
when he had
that's-
Jan on and he just yelled?
God, it was so romantic.
And then I'll leave the
We'll
Zoom
never
call.
forget. Yeah, that's great. Well, in that case, we can move on to the hottest new release, Persona 5 Royale.
Oh yeah,
Allison.
yeah. I was wondering if you're gonna have that because the boss I just beat had me about screaming into my TV, but not in a romantic way, in a why is this here kind of way. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Persona 5 Royale. It's really, really good, except that the boss I just did was kind of excruciating, and to beat it, I had to somehow, for some reason, I had to turn up the difficulty to the highest difficulty, because apparently that's the going strategy for this boss, which I was not expecting.
That's buck wild.
Yeah.
This is about like the halfway point too in the game, right?
Yeah. And so
remember.
up until this point, I'm playing on normal. So it's like, it's it's easy, but I don't necessarily want it to be a hard game. I'm mostly playing it for the story and characters and everything. And then suddenly this boss starts just completely destroying me. Do you think I could? It's been out long enough that I can spoil the boss. Okay, so the boss is from the Okamura Palace, which is basically midpoint of the game, like you said.
That's the spaceship-y one.
Yeah, which is like the design of the palace is cool. I like it, but I like spaceshipy things, so that was fun. And the whole story at this point is that this boss is literally a boss who's overworking his employees and basically abusing him for his food empire. So in the battle, he is bringing out waves of enemies, but the thing is that if you get their health down too low, they'll run away. But you have to defeat everybody in that particular wave before you can move on to the next wave. So there are like multiple scenarios where they'll run away and it will make you repeat that wave. It's either like you're going for too many turns, you've defeated one, but you haven't defeated the other three, or you get their health down too low, but do not defeat them. And I was just like trying every single strategy a million times over, not sure what I was even doing. And so I decided to look up strategies because I knew other people had talked about it being a frustrating boss battle. And then apparently the going strategy is that you have to set it to the highest difficulty because that maximizes your damage. So you have to just be really good while playing it, but that deals with some of the weird wave nonsense in the game. So that was, I was not expecting that to be the strategy I needed to deal with, but
so
other than that, it's a good game.
It's basically the Whitney's Mill Tank of Persona.
Yes, but worse somehow.
Oh no!
Just blew my mind with that comparison.
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing though. It's different because when I was a kid, Whitney's Mill Tank, like I was in a different mind space, right, with how I played Pokemon.
Yeah.
You weren't dealing with a global pandemic.
No.
You didn't have so much on your plate. You were just a kid. And you went, this is some bullshit. What is this?
The first time I played Pokemon was Pokemon Blue, and I just completely played the entire game with my Bulbasaur, like just being the only Pokemon I played.
Yeah, exactly. The correct way to play Pokemon.
So I go to Gold and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that. I'm smarter now. I'm all of like 10 years old or whatever. And then I get to Whitney's Mill Tank and I'm like, oh, this is not easy. But like now I'm like, I'm actively trying to go through every strategy to get past this boss fight. And I absolutely can't without this convoluted heightening the difficulty to max out my damage. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That's weird because like just hitting a wall, like that's the part that sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, everything up until this point has been great. Like you mentioned in our chat that like, yeah, I was beating the enemies before this, no problem.
Yeah. And I mean, I died a couple of times before, but it was always me being stupid. So it's kind of, you're like, okay, I've died, but it was just,
why? Like, it's not like
right. It was once I was like up against enemies. I did an attack on all of the enemies, and then they all reflected it back at me. So I was like, yeah, that was me being silly and not getting that right. I get it. And then here I'm like, oh, and then also just with the way that the Persona 5 boss fights are, you can't exit out of the boss fights really, like, because you have to send the calling card and do it that day. So I can't just go, well, I will go and regroup and go grind a little bit and get some extra items and things. It's like, oh no, I need to figure out how to do this now. So
are you using a guide for the social link stuff?
Not for the
like
social
maximize
links.
your gains and stuff?
No, not for the social links. I just use a guide for the homework questions.
Oh God, yeah, same.
Yeah. I just got I was number 1 in my class recently, so
Congratulations.
But thank you. Yeah,
Cheated.
But I did cheat and yeah, but no, the only thing I'm using a guide for is that and there's the confidant link where you have to make personas for the link.
Yeah, like the fusing stuff.
Yeah. And so I've looked up guides for like, how do I get that one? Because I'm like, I have no idea how to get that particular persona with that particular move.
Yeah.
So, although I did literally just go back 2 weeks in the game so that I could get my confidant rank with Makoto up so that we could go together to the school festival. So this is my life now, I guess.
No, I was in the same boat, and it got to a point where I had to put the game down because I was playing it off of guides to maximize my social links. And then just not really caring about the battles so much that I had to think it's like, what am I playing this game for if I'm just going by these guides to maximize my social links and whatnot? That being said, it's still a great game. It's fantastic. But then I don't know. I feel like there's so much to do. It's so little time. So maybe it is like real life, Yeah,
I'm actively trying to force myself not to over maximize my time because especially like right early on and things start opening up, there's just so much to do. And then you get a text get like 5 texts from people to hang out and you're like, I don't know, who do I hang out with? So I'm just trying to play the social links and stuff by ear and just go, okay, I feel like hanging out with you. Let's do that.
I was save scumming to maximize the little like ticks you get when you pick the right choice in a conversation. And that was just extending my like time playing the game by tenfold that I just had to stop and just look up a guide instead.
Yeah.
And Andre, as someone living in Japan, and I know you're not anywhere near Shibuya, but is like in real life, have you taken on the Big Bang Burger Challenge? Like, do you have enough guts?
I have actually started eating less as I've been here, thankfully for my waistline. I'm trying to think if I've ever done an eating challenge like that, and I don't think I have. I don't think I've seen like a Big Bang Burger Challenge. One time we came back from like summer vacation, and one of the English teachers was sharing in junior high school was sharing what he did, and he's like, I ate this 2-kilogram hamburger, and it was just like 10 patties. And I'm like, I mean, he was overweight. He was a large man, like much larger than your average Japanese person. And I was like, how did you eat that? Why would you do that?
For non-metric people, 2 kilograms would be like what, like 4.5 pounds or something like that?
Yeah, something roughly, like that.
Yeah. I'm impressed.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, he ate it all, apparently. I was just like in shock. Yeah.
I remember when I went to hang out with Andre in real life in Japan for the first time, and we went to Universal in the Harry Potter section. My husband ate such a quantity that Andre was like, "Oh, are you good?" Like, so I think Andre's the wrong person to ask about this kind of stuff.
Like, I eat like a lot sometimes. I used to eat so much more and just like gorge myself. And like, I used to be of the opinion that if you weren't breathing heavy after like a meal, you didn't eat enough.
Oof.
Oh no!
I've done the sweatpants buffet before.
Yeah, you're like, that burrito, like my heart hurts.
My husband lives this lifestyle when we're on vacation, and he takes this as a challenge. So
I mean, yeah, if you're on vacation,
On vacation, like anything goes.
Yeah. Well, speaking of eating a lot, I'm playing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. And boy, do those people eat. Have you ever seen Goku eat?
Yes, I have.
He eats a lot.
Yes.
And in this game, one of the first things you do is collect some apples and some fish for Chi-Chi to make you a bento. That's literally the first mission you do, is collect some apples and fish. Because this is an open world RPG.
Do you think it's good?
I'm enjoying it. I think part of that is because I legitimately consider like the GBA Legacy of Goku 2 and Boo's Fury games to be in my top 10 of all time.
Yes.
And if this game came out on the PS2, it'd be incredible. Like when I was 10 years old, I would be like, this is my favorite game of all time. If it had come out in that time period, like the same game. It couldn't because of, like, you know, processing power and whatnot. But it's the same kind of open world, go get some weird quests from people to like level up, and then you can punch a hole in this wall and get some loot.
Because I think I want to play it for that, because that sounds fun. But everybody was
don't pay $60 for it.
I won't,
that's for sure. I think, but the thing that's held me back from like console Dragon Ball Z games since the PS2 and like the Budokai Tenkaichi games is the combat just seems very shallow. I loved Fighters like 2 years ago. That was incredible. But with like the Xenoverse, like Raging Blast, everything that's come out since Tenkaichi basically has seemed really simple. I haven't played with it too much, but those games had like heavy attacks or kicks and punches and then key blasts and stuff. But in this game, you've got your physical attacks are just like the circle button or one button, then key blast, and then you're doing modifiers like right trigger and square to do like a Kamehameha. Whereas in the Tenkaichi games, you were actually doing like fighting game inputs. So
yeah, this
feels much more shallow in comparison. But because it's not a pure fighting game, I'm thinking I'm being a little more forgiving of that. The production's good. They have all the right voice actors. I'm realizing, because it's been so long since I've watched the show, like, oh, the voice actor for Kami is just the guy who does Vegeta and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a little more of that. Maybe he's phoning it in a little bit here, but seeing the goofy side quests that they have in where it's just like, go collect some deer, and you're just like run up to them like T-1000 style, and then like just grab them from behind. It's like, you got some beast meat. Okay. Go collect 6 deer for Yajirobe.
It just shows how terrifying Goku is to a normal person.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you do this as Goku, you do it in like, they switch you around characters. So I'm just now at the Goku versus Vegeta section. I just started today, but
I liked Xenoverse enough. So I feel like I probably would like this game on sale, because like Xenoverse is good in spots, but also has the same kind of issues with having kind of shallow combat in places too. So I don't know. I've been kind of waiting for it to pop up on sale to pick it up.
I got it on the Steam summer sale. I should have got the DLC apparently, because the first DLC is the only one that's out, but it's got Beerus from Super, and it lets you get the Super Saiyan God transformation. And you can get that like immediately when you start the game almost, or like very early. So then you can just use Super Saiyan God through the entire game. And so you can be like Goku versus Vegeta and Super Saiyan God, and things are trivial. But I have to get further into it, but I'm enjoying my time with it. It's a good nostalgia kick. It reminds me of those GBA games, even if it's not as satisfying, whether that's because I'm not 10 or I have higher expectations on the new console or whatever it might be.
I'd say a positive of this game, and for me, there's not a lot of positives with this game, but it's neat how they have little quests to flesh out little bits of story. You do run into like side characters from the OG Dragon Ball, and all of it is framed within like everything that is going on is canon. So you meet like the Frankenstein, I forget his name,
Ader,
yes.
I think there's multiple Frankensteins, but yeah.
And then you meet some people that you fought against in the martial arts tournaments, which is neat to see. It's like, oh, that's what you've been doing this whole time.
Yeah. So I would have liked if they had actually gone like, let's do Dragon Ball through Super, just like, because at least in the West, we haven't gotten many Dragon Ball games. At least I've never gotten into them, and I think part of that is Dragon Ball wasn't nearly as popular as Dragon Ball Z was.
Yeah,
but it always kind of gets the short shrift, it seems, in the games in the West.
If they should make a service game,
they should,
like Destiny, that starts with original Dragon Ball, and then they can just bolt onto it. They could have a Dragon Ball.
I mean, that's Xenoverse kind of,
and then
but they still Xenoverse still is like chunked and it has like multiple games and stuff.
Well, yeah, it's the Xenoverse 2 and all the DLC they put out for that. That's
I guess I didn't play enough of it to see that stuff, so maybe that is what
so
I'm
many DLC
for.
packs.
So
maybe I should just play Xenoverse 2 more.
So which character should they have as a coach for the Peloton bike?
You want Piccolo?
It's just Piccolo. All right, so
just Piccolo
in there.
And he's gonna wave his hand at you, and you're gonna be wearing Piccolo athletic gear.
He points his fingers at you, and a laser beam shoots out of your screen, and it
hits your wallet. Clothes. And then you have.
I feel like Vegeta would also be a tough but good trainer.
Oh yeah.
Eventually, he'd say, "I love you."
He would scream at you a lot first, though,
and then your bike would explode.
His t-shirt would read "Bike Man."
He would place his hands on your shoulders, scream at you full volume,
and press down,
and then eventually take you to a theme park that he promised.
Yeah. Well, I think with that's going to wrap up our game talk, and we'll get in to the most exciting news of this past week.
And I think
Jan, did you hear that Halo Infinite got delayed?
We will also be bidding adieu.
Real quick before I bid adieu to all of you who are now my now family. I need you all to know that Halo Infinite is delayed, and
oh my god,
wait,
what?
Delayed. I mean, good on the developers, but suddenly this fall and winter, if 2020 was not already looking a little dire, it's looking a little what's gonna happen, I know a lot of folks see
your Halo.
I know a lot of folks are on both sides. There shouldn't be both sides. We're all just here to play some games, right? They're all thinking I forgot where it's gonna go with this. Never mind. This whole epic thing that I was building up, it's gone. Forget it. I lost
much like Halo is
even
gone
better
from the 2020 release calendar.
Exactly.
You don't got Halo, I got family.
Full circle. There we go.
Wow, full circle.
There's plenty of time to play Trails
like
Still 4.
Yes.
On your shiny new
The thing
PS5.
every Halo fan wants, Trails of Cold Steel.
I bet if they gave it a shot.
Halo fans? Yeah, totally.
Halo
There's a
fans
lot
only
more.
want one thing, and it makes me sick.
And it's a shield what goes.
Randy Orlando could take on Master Chief. Randy Orlando is the name of a character that should be in Halo.
Or the Jaeger King. One of the other characters is called Xeno the Trap King. No,
the Trap King.
No, Xeno the Trap Master and Leonidas the Behemoth.
Okay.
Yeah, these are all
friends.
names of brutes that Master Chief could be fighting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the biggest brute of them all, Brian David Gilbert.
Monster.
It's a good video.
Brian David
watched that
Gilbert,
video.
sponsor our podcast. Come on our podcast, Brian David Gilbert.
Yeah.
Uh,
I watched that video and was like, maybe I should read some of these Halo books.
God.
well,
I can't
before we
believe
give
you found that
Jan,
video from that.
before we
If
give
you
Jan
wanna-
any more
okay.
bad ideas,
Here's the thing. If you want to start a book club, I'll think about being on it. It's about the Halo books.
oh boy, you're writing
Jan,
checks your butt will have to cash.
Yeah, I wouldn't challenge the people on this podcast to do something ridiculous.
I'll do it.
Convince people that we like to talk to us more.
Just one though. And
Just one.
it can't be the first or the last. It has to be one of the middle ones.
Okay.
I've got to read like 17 Halo books and then you're in.
Is there a
Well,
Halo
thanks
comic
for
book?
joining us, Jan.
Okay, I gotta leave. I gotta.
I'm cutting you loose. I'm not going to do this to
We
you.
can't
I'm not
subject
going to
you
let
to
you do
this
this to
anymore.
yourself.
Ejecto
Tell you,
Seato.
do not Google Halo comic book when you leave this call.
Oh, too late.
Thanks for joining us, Jan. It was a pleasure to
Thank
have
you
you.
very much.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me,
Being
friends.
If people, for some reason, don't know who you are, who are you? Where can they find you?
I am Jan Ochoa. I'm a video producer at giantbomb.com. We're a website about video games majority of the time. We have a hit podcast, not to ape your podcast, but the Giant Bombcast, Tuesdays live, generally at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then, we play a bunch of games on the internet. It's weird times. We're streaming all the time. We're streaming all the time.
One can say Giant Bomb Infinite streaming.
Oh my God.
Infinite Squared.
Infinite Squared. But yeah, I on Twitter, I think at _Jan Jerome. I don't tweet anything remarkable or anything of value. But if you want to just, I don't know, follow me for whatever reason and join me on
If you
this
want to
journey.
tweet about the Halo books,
Yes. We're starting an online. No, I'm not going to say that. Because once you say something online, it's
You have to
forever.
do it.
etched. You have to do it. Like, I can't tell you the number of dumb ideas, one-off ideas I've said to Ben in a video, Benjamin Pack, in a video or a podcast that one person has latched onto that I feel forever indebted to do before it is in my mortal coil that I have to do it. Like, there's a dumb amount of ideas and food items that I feel like Ben and I have to make. Like, I have a Post-it note here that says soup hot pocket. I don't know what that means, and I don't remember where that came from.
I think you could do that if you get like some of those
close bread ball.
it's like a bread ball,
maltodextrose
It's-
powder things. You like throw that and get it all congealed.
It's like a soup dumpling.
Yeah, it's gonna
but
take a soup dumpling, a xiaolong bao, something like that.
On the same
a hot pocket.
on the same Post-it, I have hard chowder.
I listened to
I've
that
been thinking
episode
about
and I
that
thought,
one. Yeah.
I was thinking like a Mike's Hard chowder, like an alcoholic chowder.
That's what I was
That's
thinking.
what I thought too.
Like when he
No.
first said it, I was like, Mike's Hard Chowder.
No.
I mean,
Like a chowder bar.
but I
Okay.
mean, you've
Before I
already
leave, can I peel back the curtain and some inside baseball?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
So Ben and I, we have a cooking show on giantbomb.com. And there's we had planned to do an episode before quarantine had happened, and it was supposed to be a combination of Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing. And what we were thinking of doing is making Isabel in like the Doom armor, but covering it in a chocolate sphere. And we were going to pour hot magma like hell onto the sphere and reveal an island. And we had everything set up. And that's when Jeff Gersman had said, all right, we're going to start working from home.
Oh.
That's brutal.
We have
On the one hand, I'm glad for your guys' safety.
Yeah,
but on
of
the
course.
other hand, I desperately want this to be real.
we have a pack of balloons, meltable chocolate, and like Isabel Amiibo sitting on my desk that I can't get to.
Well, people just have to wait, and until
people
then,
just
can
have to
just
wait.
look at
It'll
69.
be-
What is it? Your 69 bread.
Oh my God. My bread adventures have just gone exponentially dumber and dumber. But thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yes.
I'm greatly honored.
Yes,
Yeah,
no, we
appreciate it.
are so lucky to have you. Thank you for joining us once again.
Yeah.
If
Thanks for
I
being
could
here.
hug all of you, I would, but social distancing. So I'm just gonna like politely wave and like aggressively nod.
Yes.
At least 6,000 miles between each of us.
Yes.
At least.
A single clap. I hope that didn't mess up the sync once you're stitching this
crap.
together. So I'm just gonna clap again. Oh, dang it.
Oh,
No, I'm just
Oh,
messing
boy.
everything up.
Yeah. The video producer, my ass. All right. Well, thanks and have a good one, Jan.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And now the news.
Do we want to
Now the reunion cast. We're all here.
Do we want to
Should talk
resync
Jan
for
for the next
anybody who
90
got
minutes.
desynced?
Oh, we can do it.
Do
at
we
the
want
end.
to clap for anybody? Okay, do it at the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a big note over my stop
do-
button that says clap at the end, so I don't
I'm-
accidentally close my recording.
I'm just going
Is
to
it-
mark 150:00 to cut this conversation out of the podcast.
Yes, yes.
Should we actually quickly resync now because I might not be able to stay to the end?
That's fine
It's
with
fine.
me too.
No, as long as you end at
Yeah.
the same time as all of us, it's all good.
Well, that's what Sam's saying, is
But
that he may
yeah,
also have
Sam
to
might not
bounce
be able to.
before.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Baby is currently asleep, but when baby wakes up,
Okay, fine. Let's do a resync. I'm just gonna say
thanks.
Time dot is. Oh, it just hit midnight, baby. We could have. Oh, if we were just a little bit faster, we could have done at midnight. For me.
Jan.
good time travel. All right. 20 and 25.
Oh, wait,
sounds
hold
good.
Oh,
Oh.
25 and
on.
30.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. 25:30.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for that, guys.
For secondary clap. And all right. Yeah, good to go with news whenever y'all are.
All right. Well, as we discussed just before Jan had to depart, Halo Infinite got delayed
Yeah.
a mere 3 weeks after they finally showed off gameplay, and Keeley would not stop talking about it, and they hyped it up so much.
Yeah, and
And
how much of that Series X stream was about Halo Infinite? Like,
like the
That's-
first 15 minutes.
It's also how they heavily marketed it. They're like, oh, come check out this
They
stream.
announced it. They've been showing this game for 2 years now, and they last year announced it would be launching with the Series X. Oh, excuse me. So it's, it's going on 2.5 years marketing cycle, and delays happen. I understand why they delayed it. It's just wild that it did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Sam, being the prophet of the future, did predict this accurate. I mean, it wasn't entirely accurate because it wasn't the event you were talking about that ended up with a delay,
Yeah.
but still, like, Sam, how do you feel as the prophet of our generation?
As I'll now be referred to as Nostradamus.
oh god,
That's a Nintendo thing. That's
Fuck.
you can't say that.
You could be
Ejecto
Sam
Seato. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I don't know why I thought it wasn't going to be ready, but I literally was like, we've not seen this game at all, and it's meant to come out in this much time. And 343 does not have a stellar Halo reputation from 4 and 5. And I
It's
just
been
was
5
like,
years since the last Halo game.
the fact that it's 5 years and they're like, we do have to delay it, it seems like that game is in trouble to me. I
If-
think that game's not going to be particularly good.
I
or
think
reviewed very well.
if pandemic hadn't happened, I don't know if we'd be in this situation. But the story around it has been interesting. The stuff they've talked about, like the reception to that reveal was mixed. There were a lot of people saying it looks like Halo. It doesn't look good. Like visually, it doesn't look good. Stuff like that. So they were kind of getting hammered either way. The Brute was just absolutely getting clowned on. Phil Spencer came out and said, he's our mascot now. But interestingly, on Wednesday, Phil Spencer did a show with Gary Whitta, Animal Talking, where he talked about Phil Spencer talked to Gary Whitta and said that they considered releasing the game in parts, which was one of the rumors that was kind of going around about like the multiplayer not launching with the game.
Yeah, were they suggesting that they were going to release the multiplayer at launch? And I wonder if that's still going to happen.
The rumor was no. So the rumor initially was multiplayer was not going to launch with like the campaign. But then 343 came out. 343 came out and said, no, it is, and it's going to be free to play and 120 FPS. But that ended up, that was like a week before this delay or 2 weeks before this delay. So they keep like having to change their messaging and like clarify things, and they go, actually none of it's coming out at launch, because they did consider doing a partial release, but then they said, no, we're gonna hold it all and then put it out all together as a complete package in sometime in 2021. They've not clarified beyond that.
So
do you guys reckon that's next winter?
Oh God, I don't even know at this point. But like, weird thing talking about this, because this happened shortly after we recorded last. So we've definitely had full conversations about this on our own. So I don't know what we've talked about and what we haven't talked about. But the most important thing is the fact that this has such a huge impact on the launch of the Xbox Series X. Like,
yeah,
well, especially the launch lineup.
Yes.
Why would you buy one now?
Yeah,
because someone put it in a way that kind of made sense to me, which is, you know, PC people will be like, why would you buy a console? And then that's just going to play the same games you're already playing, but better. And then they turn around and they spend $800 on a new graphics card that plays the same games they're already playing, just better.
Sure.
So I think there is some of that same mindset, there are games. So one of the things that's been a talking point, I talk about this in the YouTube video I made. You can find that on the Fix Podcast YouTube channel, where they talked about how all the first party games are going to be playable on both generations, on like the current generation and the next gen, for like 2-ish years. They haven't said exactly, but a few years. But not every game launching on the Xbox One or the Xbox Series X and Series S probably, which is going to get announced in like a week, I bet, is like the Medium and Scorn, which are basically the two big exclusives they have right now, are only on Series X and Series S and PC. Scorn isn't even on PC; it's only on the Series.
If you
So they've got some stuff, but they don't have a first party like showcase game, because I don't think either one of those is going to be a big showcase, even though I think the Medium looks like it could be. It's a $50 game, so I don't think it'll be a showcase piece.
What about that Rare game? Has that been announced for?
No, they have said, we don't know what this game is yet.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, I forgot about that.
Forza as well got announced, but with no date. But when you look at the trailer, it says specifically Series X, but doesn't say Xbox One, whereas all the other ones that play on Xbox One say it. So it's like, does that mean that Forza is 2 years away?
Yeah,
because they said 2 years, everything first party will run on Xbox One.
Yeah,
and Halo Fable has no Xbox One logo.
Oh, that's more than 2 years out for sure.
That's and like they didn't even show a trailer really. That was just like a concept. But
I wouldn't be surprised if Forza's 2 years out. That one would be surprising to me for sure.
But,
me too. But like,
no, I hear you. Yeah,
I would imagine that's next year. I'd hope, but
yeah.
So something about
I think they've got nothing.
But yeah, something about Microsoft is that it seems like, and we've talked about this like for probably a year, maybe two, is that they're so moving into the service side of things. Like they don't care if you own the box. They just want you to use Game Pass and all that kind of stuff. And xCloud is being rolled up into Game Pass Ultimate. We talked about that a few weeks ago, which is awesome. However, I think they've also said that Xbox Series X games, like it won't be Xbox Series X in the back end for at least like a year until after the launch.
Yeah, it's like, they'll be rolling that in over time, but it's not like right away, instantaneous.
So at launch, like I don't know. I don't know. Like Microsoft's messaging is so mixed right now.
If you're heavily into the Microsoft ecosystem and you're on like a 1 or a 1S still, I could see like wanting to upgrade. If you're like, yeah, the one, I'll just wait for the next gen on the 1X. Like I don't need that because I'm going to be able to play all that stuff, even if it's not as, not good. And it sounds like lots of rumors going around, again, rumors, so nothing substantiated yet, that the PS5 does not run multi-platform games nearly as well right now because of like the unique hardware stuff it's got going on. So developers are kind of like the cell processor. Developers are still trying to figure out how to best like utilize and work with it if they're doing multi-platform stuff, because they're working across, Xbox and PS5 and maybe current gen stuff. So much so that maybe a game like Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village, maybe I think they said it's not actually Resident Evil 8, which is weird. But Capcom,
that.
I think, was out there saying it's not Resident Evil 8, it's Resident Evil Village.
Whatever. They showed the 8 in that fucking trailer.
Yeah, I don't know.
It is Resident Evil 8 Village. They can say it's not one.
So that is going to run maybe, it's a rumor, and we're still ways out. Things can be optimized, but 1080p 60 as opposed to like real 4K, which has been one of the big selling points of these consoles, is 4K 60. And it sounds like Microsoft or the Xbox doesn't have that problem. So if you're looking for a strong multi-platform console, then that might be the way to go.
Except that it sounds like Sony is also buying all the multi-platform games. So
well, then they're not multi-platform.
No, I know, but like I don't know how many.
Yeah, they're buying. They're going to be. Yeah, they're paying for a lot of exclusives. They're going for a lot of exclusives.
To me, the multi-platform platform of choice is still the PC, and obviously it's a higher barrier, like a higher barrier of entry.
I mean,
it's more expensive,
and also like more kind of complicated too. Just because there is an element of if you just buy a console, you know what there's limited options.
Yeah,
no, it's not complicated. You just got to set your CPU priority to high.
Sorry, carry on. But
very quickly, we don't have to get into it, but like just for example, last week I was extremely hard on the Avengers beta on PS4, and I still think that it has plenty of things to be critical of. But I'm playing the PC beta this weekend and having a blast because it plays well. There's no micro stutter. The visuals are way better. The motion blur looks way better. The reflections look way better. All the lighting is way better. And it feels much better. It doesn't feel soupy like I felt that it did on PS4 because it's running at a really high frame rate. So, yeah.
Don't like that you described a game as soupy.
Yeah,
soupy is one of my favorite.
No,
yes.
I'm okay with it as a descriptor, but there's something about it, like a game as soupy, that just
Spider-Man's
doesn't
about
sit
to
right
swing
with me.
right into the soup. Anyway, sorry, Sam, what were you saying?
But like the interesting thing is that Microsoft does not make playing stuff on their console super easy. Like I have a Series X and I have a PS4 Pro, and if I put a disc in my Xbox One, like there is probably a 60-40 chance of whether I'll be able to play that day. Whereas with the PS4 Pro, I feel like I'm like usually pretty good.
It varies. I have had that problem with PS4 as well. So,
but is the split is the 40 split because like it needs to do updates out of the box kind of stuff?
Needs to do updates and it doesn't do them automatically, or sometimes the game will just crash on launch 3 or 4 times before it launches.
Yes. Wow,
that's an Xbox problem.
That's
for
rough.
Sure.
I haven't heard
that stuff just crashes constantly on the Xbox at launch. And like, so when I was playing Fast and Furious yesterday, I threw the disc in the morning when it arrived, and then like went in at night to play it, and it was like I needed a 30 gig update, and I'm like, okay, if this was a PS4, that would have been done. Cool. So then I started it and like started the update, started playing the game, and it crashed 3 times before it launched.
Wow.
And Maneater was unplayable for multiple weeks on Xbox One, which sucked. Like 2-3 weeks, it was completely unplayable.
I will say those are both games that launched with technical problems on multiple platforms.
Yeah.
So, but also I think that the Xbox UI is so clunky that I do think that it has issues trying to launch stuff sometimes. That is a unique Xbox problem, I think. I would say like PS4 system updates happen so frequently that if you're somebody like me who uses their PS4 for like a game every couple of months, I have had instances where I'm like, okay, preloaded the game. It's Tuesday afternoon. It should be good to go. And then I don't think to turn my PS4 on again. And then Thursday at 9, I turn it on for the launch. And it's like, oh, actually, there was a system update that they pushed Wednesday. So you need to download that. And then there was a launch day patch that wasn't included in the preload. So you actually aren't going to play it tonight. And that is extraordinarily frustrating, too. So I think it's...
Especially with PSN being extremely slow.
Yeah.
They still haven't fixed that.
To be also fair, I've run into the same on Switch. if I haven't...
Hell yeah.
Yeah, like if I haven't turned my Switch on in like a week or two... And
that happens to me a lot.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you need to update the system. Oh, you need to update the system again. And then like,
system updates on Switch.
None of the
platform of my life.
None of these platforms are free of these issues.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing to me that stood out about this Halo issue is they had to get this information out there as soon as they decided this, because it was going to leak, because everything about this game has been leaking. But if they had accompanied this with like more concrete announcements or information, that would have been, I think, not as bad. The only thing they did was put out a thing on the like Microsoft blog or the Xbox blog saying Microsoft or the Xbox Series X will release with thousands of games spanning 4 generations.
Yeah.
And
I want new games, Microsoft.
But I also don't know
I've played
what
those.
else. I don't know what else the marketing team could have done.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Like if this had, because they're supposed to have another event later this month, if they had been able to hold this information until that event and like sandwich, soften the blow with like, here's some more cool announcements, more cool games. Here's the new box, the Series S.
Especially
if they could like put it in with some good news, it would not seem so bad.
Especially because it sounds I mean, we don't know anything, but the rumors sound like they're going to kind of lowball the price on this box a little bit, and take a fairly significant hit margin wise. And
I saw a thing that was like a monster competition that and if you looked into like the value, it came out to like $599 for the Xbox Series X.
I feel like that's hard to
who knows if it's accurate, but
tracked anything. And I still think these boxes are going to be super expensive, but I keep hearing people say that the Xbox is going to they're going to lowball it and get it in well under the PS5, which I think they have to.
Yes. If they aren't cheaper, they aren't going to sell anything.
Right. So if they were able to sort of say like at the front, maybe like, hey, here's the price. It's really good compared to the PS5. And then share the news that there won't be any games for it when it comes out in the middle, and then maybe at the end say, hey, here's a release date for Senua or something. That could have
that game's not coming out for another 2 years probably too.
I don't know if I think that
I mean, their thing was like location shooting for the last presentation, so
it just seems like they must have been working on it for a long time, but I mean, that's totally in the weeds in a different subject.
You can whip up a CG trailer, but
but
I'm gonna have to dip out before we get on to the cool stuff.
The cool stuff.
The legalese.
He's gonna go get the hottest scoops from Todd Howard
from a butt.
Hell yeah.
The scoops from Todd Howard's butt.
I'm about to have a wet gamer moment as I get to change it.
No. I hope it's not wet because of the poop.
The gamer moment? No.
You know what?
If I had to choose between being peed on or pooped on.
That was the nail on the head there, Pat.
I've been both. They're fine. It doesn't bother you at all after like the first time he poos on you. You're like, oh
no,
and then afterwards you're like, oh, I have poo on my elbow.
That's kind of how that comes from.
Then you're like, oh, there's soap. Oh,
yeah.
You're like,
comes off.
There's a sink right next to this. Okay. Goodbye, all.
Speaking of wet gamer moments, bye, Sam. It took me like a good 30 minutes to realize what Erica said at the beginning of the show.
Wait, what did
like to process like her
It's a
wet
wet-ass
ass gamer.
Oh, yeah.
It took me like
Wag, as
like
you
it
will.
processed like 30 minutes later. I was like, oh.
It took me a little bit longer, not that long, but it took me longer than it probably should have.
Wait,
taken
that it
me.
was like a reference to the song?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that's what we were doing from the moment that we started this whole thing.
That's where
Oh,
my brain went immediately. Which
Yeah,
is why
I thought
started.
that the whole wet gamer
Oh no,
moment thing was tied to
I
that.
only thought about like it took me like a little bit of time
No,
after Erica said that. I was like, oh,
there was a story before the podcast we started recording. So inside baseball to listeners who weren't listening to us before we were recording. I don't know how you
It was
could have,
all
but
of you.
whatever. With all of you, except for Jan, if you're still listening, hi. Wherein I had a shower before the podcast and was unfurling my socks as you do because you wrap them up, and one of the socks flew straight into the toilet. So it was a wet ass.
As you
game.
do.
You should have just buckled down and put it on anyway.
Yeah, probably.
uh,
Anyways,
Anyway,
Halo.
also delayed. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2,
A good thing.
also into 2021.
I think that one's a good thing.
There's
I think
no
that has
way that-
less.
I think both delays are good, but
I think
like that game was probably going to have like with Cyberpunk also being out in like a similar time frame. They're different games, but they're first-person RPGs. I think that similarity was probably going to do them a disservice.
I think they're both good delays for the teams and probably for the games themselves. It's just Vampire doesn't have that much writing on it. Like it's not going to be a system seller, whereas Halo's delay brings into question what's going to happen with the launch of a console.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think what's interesting about this is that I think Bloodlines 2 will probably be a much better game than Halo Infinite.
it's definitely a game I'm probably going to play.
I mean,
more than I'd play Halo Infinite, but
if anyone hasn't played,
I'd play.
If anyone has not played the first Bloodlines, you should.
I have not, but I should.
Very good.
It is one of my favorite games of all time. Very good. So,
and I think that's a valid opinion. It is very good.
Yes. I don't know that Bloodlines 2 is going to be. I don't have the expectations for it to top that game at all. I think it will be cool if it's half as good, but it's probably going to be better than Halo, which I think is going to be bad.
Right. Well, more Microsoft news. The new Xbox controller somehow got out in the wild. Someone bought it off the back of a truck, and the box mentions the existence of a Series S. God damn, I can't say these console names.
First, my friend sent me this, and I was like, "That's a fake box. There's no fucking way that's real." And then I ate my hat later. Two, we talk about this in our chat. They've basically said the Series S exists and is.
Well, I think
it doesn't.
No, but it's basically the rumor. The rumor mill is strong with this one, and it was supposed to be announced at E3, but then that didn't happen, and they keep pushing the date.
Where Phil Spencer said in an interview somewhere there was more than one box coming.
They've mentioned similar, but I remember we watched. I think it was with Super GG Radio. It was a handful of us. We were watching the Game Awards, and that's where they announced the Series X, right? And I think at the time, like within 2 minutes of that trailer ending, we had said, "Oh, Series X. That means there's going to be a Series S, right?" Like, like that,
100%.
it was like people are acting so surprised. Like people are like, "Oh, there's going to be a Series S." What? It's like, no, that was obvious from like literally minute one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
some people don't have critical thinking skills.
But sorry, Allison, it's not a big leap.
Yeah, it's not a huge leap to go, oh, Series X, so then Series S. Like, it's not, I don't know if it would be surprising, but
they've set up that convention this generation. Like, it's I don't think it's a surprise, personally.
No, but they have not officially announced or anything. But supposedly, in their August event, I've seen some more strong Game Pass announcements, and also the Series S will be revealed. And presumably at that point, they'll give a price and pre-order information.
Like,
yeah,
we're like 3 months out.
Apparently, there was something like some sort of PlayStation wasn't like price or pre-orders weren't till September. Maybe it was the 360. I don't remember.
Really?
I saw
I don't
something.
It's
was
still
real late.
it's just not really responsible, in my opinion, to like withhold that stuff when the
They
economy.
got to wait to see if those second stimulus checks come through.
Well, I mean, the economy is proceeding to get worse.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah, we have a story.
I mean,
about
I'm
that
not trying to
soon.
center the United States as like the center of the world or anything, but I think it's pretty true in most places that
Yeah.
coronavirus is having a fairly negative impact on the economy in places.
They've
So to,
discussed
Yeah,
they've
Pat,
discussed removing the 10% sales tax in Japan. It's
Yeah.
probably not going to happen,
Yeah,
but that is a
interesting.
discussion that happened.
but stick with us in the news. We're gonna have a more thorough conversation about that one, Pat, with an upcoming story. But also, I think you are right that like people need to be able to budget. Like
That's
right
what I'm
now,
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now more than ever.
a new console is a luxury item. Like straight
Yeah.
up, it's not a necessity.
Yeah.
Like we do a podcast because we find this to be a passion thing that we care about, but like it's not the core of anyone's life other than developers and stuff like that. Like you can make it a point,
Yeah.
but like for average consumer, average Joe who goes out and buys an Xbox 360 10 years ago, like, you know, you can budget that, that's fine. And like now we definitely need to know how much to budget because
Exactly.
right. I
what's
mean,
gonna
even
happen
as
in 5
somebody like that considers that is pretty passionate about it. I mean, I lost my job this year, and I know that I'm not the only one. And I mean, granted, I have made some dumb purchases, and I've made some game purchases, but like an Xbox or a PlayStation, like that's going to be a big purchase, and I need to like consider, can I do that this year?
Yeah.
Can I afford to spend that money now or wait?
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know. Part of me thinks that if you're plugged in like we are, and if you are at least at the moment considering buying one of those consoles, you're probably already trying to budget and go, okay, how much am I willing to spend on this console? Regardless of price, you can say, okay, if it's this price, that's too much, I won't go there. But up to this point, I will set aside cash for that. A lot of people, maybe they, you know, if you're in a position where your job is unstable, if you're like worried that come November you won't have a job, maybe don't do that pre-order. Like it'll suck to not get the new console if you really want it. But I think there's a limited supply of these boxes, and many people who want them will get them. Not everyone. That, you know, that's supply and demand. But I think that if people who are really plugged in are at least starting to do that budgeting, and it's just a matter of, okay, I can do that, or okay, I'm not going to buy it. And so that it's just like at this point, it just becomes a binary choice of yes or no.
Yeah. I think there's also an argument though that a lot of people like me, I would like to trade in my PS4 Pro for a PS5, and like the
sooner you can do that, the better.
Exactly. But if the console is $600, I am not going to buy one. So if it's $400 or $450 and I can trade in my PS4 Pro and get a couple $100s out of it, then great. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But
no doubt.
if we find out in October what the price of the box is, and now the PS4's value has dropped, that sucks. And there's not really, it feels like the only reason they're not at least like providing some guidance and some ballparking, even if they have to say, look, things are weird right now, we can't guarantee this price, but here is the range that we're discussing.
I think if they can't give a concrete price, they shouldn't say anything.
I mean, in that case, they may not be able to give a concrete price until 2 weeks before the thing comes out, because part of it is like they're so concerned, I think, with the way that Microsoft is going to price, that they're both just going to play chicken with each other until
it's like Jeff Grubb says in his post, Thanksgiving, everyone sits around waiting for Microsoft and Sony to announce the prices of their console.
I mean,
but I think, Erica, go ahead.
As like another member of Fixed Team Fun Employed, we're like, there's like no price in which I'm considering buying either one of these at this point, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that I think that there's probably a lot of people in that boat now too, and I'm just expecting that sales are going to be bad for both of them at this point.
I don't know about maybe because I think the current consoles all sold really well for like, you know, in the middle of the year when quarantine started, and now people have spent that money on a new console. They're probably not going to want to go spend money on another new console, but again, there'll be people who are in line for better or worse trying to buy these consoles.
But that's also when we were getting an extra 600 a week, and now we're not. So
and there are people there are people who have fortunately not been left unemployed and have money, so but to like Pat's point earlier, if like we're waiting around till October for them to announce the price, there's like no amount of budgeting is like going to save you at that point in the situation we're in. So I do agree that they need to just announce the price and make it easy on people so they can do things like go and trade in their consoles if that's what they want to do. But
okay.
It's
but I mean, I also think that the like you're saying, like the supply is going to be so tight that it doesn't really matter what they price it at. It's PS5.
It'll sell out whatever price it goes to, unless it's like something stupid.
I think the Xbox is another story without Halo to get with it. That would be
that rounds back around for sure. But so Andre, I have a request for our next news story, because the one next on our list is just going to turn us into doom scrolling and is going to be the worst.
That's true.
So I have highlighted one that maybe we should talk about first, so we can at least lighten the mood before getting into some real deep weeds.
So in next month marks the return of the Hawkman, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake is hitting the consoles, and right now there is a demo available, and 2,000 lucky people were able to buy Tony Hawk's Burrito from Chipotle of all places and get demo access. I think I heard, but I don't remember. What does everyone think is in the Tony Hawk Burrito?
Well, I heard but forgot.
I know what's in it now.
Okay,
I can't remember
Alex,
what our joke one was last week, however, or whatever.
Last week.
Do we think Tony Hawk smokes weed?
In our chat.
Oh, I don't know if we ever actually said. I think we just said we're gonna discuss the contents of what we think is in a Tony Hawk burrito.
Well, shit.
Because it depends on whether or not Tony Hawk smokes weed. I don't know if Tony Hawk smokes weed. I don't want to assume that about the man.
Tony Hawk seems like a straight edge motherfucker to me.
I don't know if I don't know. I can't tell. I could see that, but I mean, because if you asked me if it was like more of a like skateboard burrito, and I say this all with love, this is not judgmental or like
like
anything
a
against the
board
culture.
burrito.
All the skateboarders that I have hung out with and been around when I briefly did film skateboarders in college, smoked a lot of weed. So I would think that it just has a lot of like flour in a tortilla would be the perfect skateboard burrito.
It's like got like the Chiba Hut burrito. Does anybody know what Chiba Hut is? Is that like an Oregon only thing?
No idea.
That's
Chiba Hut
I have no
is
idea.
it's like a sandwich shop, but everything is named after like weed or stoner culture. And I think at one point all their sandwiches cost $4.20.
Nice.
I mean, that sounds very Oregon. So
so I mean, you got to have like I don't know Tony Hawk that well, but you got to have like a
Baja chicken.
You need some sort of like ambiguous meat where you're like, is that chicken? Is that Tony Hawk?
Yeah.
So you're thinking like
it's bird meat.
You're like Beyond Meat or something?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. You could do a Beyond Meat. Tony Hawk seems like he could be a vegetarian or I could see that. Let's see what
Beyond
else.
Baja chicken, spicy guacamole. I'm thinking of like
you got to have guacamole.
Seasoned brown rice, not a white rice.
Like a Spanish rice?
No, I don't think all the way to Spanish.
Okay.
Too salty. It's more like just like the brown rice that has a little bit of seasoning that they have at like Qdoba and stuff. I don't really eat at Chipotle, so I don't know what kind of rice they have.
Yeah.
And then, do you think queso or no queso?
He's got to stay fit. They can't be doing no queso.
I don't think there's a queso. I don't
maybe
think
like a queso fresco.
No, I think it's probably like a salsa verde. That's what's in there for like a sauce.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, let me
you can
know
do
when,
a salsa verde and a queso fresco.
And
let
then
me know
ball
when-
bearings.
Oh. Because why not?
And instead of wrapped in like the paper, it comes wrapped in grip tape.
Jesus.
But it doesn't come off because it's stuck to the things. You just got to eat it.
Yeah.
Edible grip
Like
tape.
sandpaper, dog.
Yeah.
No, but it's like edible grip tape. It's not like
edible sandpaper.
yeah.
God. Let me know when y'all are ready for the actual stuff. But Erica, what else do you think? Or what do you think
I
Tony
don't
Hawk's
know.
Burrito is?
Coronavirus? Like, I don't want to go into like a freaking Chipotle and find out what's in
No,
there.
no.
Like,
Chipotle
doesn't got corona. It's got E. coli.
E. coli, yeah.
Yeah. This is why I don't eat at Chipotle.
I don't know. I kind of, it rubs me the wrong way to see people doing in-person promotional stuff in general. Like, I just don't fuck with
At least in
it.
the
I don't want to
States,
go out. Yeah. It's bad here. Don't make people go to stores, line up and shit. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coronavirus and E. coli. Okay. That's my answer.
Tony Hawk wouldn't do you like that.
He didn't
Tony
make
Hawk
my
is-
burrito.
Tony Hawk is so wholesome. Yeah, Allison, do you have anything
What
else,
if
or
he
should
did
I
make-
should I start listing off these
I
ingredients?
don't know if I know anything else. I think yours all sound. I was going to say plausible, but not really.
I will say before you read off the actual ingredients, even if you're not a huge fan of my brother and me, they had a very funny segment where they talked about this burrito earlier in the week, and they called the Huntington Chipotle, and we're not going to have. They were like, we will not put this person on the podcast. Don't worry. Justin called, and the person recognized his voice. And then was like, can I be on the podcast? And then they had a speakerphone conversation with, I believe her name was Haley, who worked at the Huntington Chipotle. It was funny.
That's great.
Okay.
That sounds sweet.
Was it part of
It
the
was a
Lunch
very
Squad?
wholesome. Yeah, it was a Munch Squad bit.
Wonderful.
It was a very wholesome and like feel good, like
All
moment for discussion about this
Check that
burrito.
out. All right, so
What's in the burrito?
here we go. Starting today, the first 2,000 fans who ordered the Tony Hawk burrito made with brown rice, check mark, black beans, wasn't mentioned, chicken,
Yeah.
yep, tomatillo red chili salsa,
Oh, yeah.
Tomatillo would be a salsa verde, but then they put red, so it's like a spicy salsa verde.
Yeah.
it just says cheese, and guac.
There you go. We were close.
Yeah, so you actually weren't that
didn't-
far off.
I didn't say the beans. I would have assumed a black bean for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh,
Anyways,
Chiba Hut. Oh yeah, no, go ahead. Alex.
no,
I
you.
was just
That's
gonna
way
say-
more important
No,
than what
yeah,
I was going to say.
Chiba Hut is in Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Florida, New Mexico, Nevada, Oregon, and Wisconsin.
Are those all the legal states?
No,
No, because they're not here or in
Washington's not on
Michigan.
there.
All right. Fair enough. I don't know my American geography for weedness. But I was going to say, Tony, from all I've heard, the actual demo sounds like it's actually really good.
Oh, cool.
My fingers on the pre-order button to get it
I
because I
know,
want to play it, and I'm
curious.
gonna buy it. I'm sure because it sounds good, and that sounds like a really good remake of the first two Tony Hawk games coming in, September of 2020 is like a beam of light just slicing through the dark clouds and shining on all of us. Like, I need to listen to Superman and skateboard around that warehouse, and I need to end the school.
They have done some interesting things, like the levels aren't one-to-one recreations. They've changed some things, partially because they have implemented mechanics from 3 and 4.
So smart,
Like
yeah.
the revert, and I think the revert was from, I don't remember which ones, but like the
wall plant
manuals and reverts and stuff that came from later games and wall plants are put into this remake.
Yeah. And it's Vicarious Visions, so I have so much more faith in that team.
I watched. Speaking of our guests' day job, I watched. Jeff Gerstmann play a fair bit of the Warehouse demo, and he was pretty hot on it. And I don't agree with Jeff on every video game, but he is definitely the man that I go to for Tony Hawk opinions, because he's got that in his DNA, and it looked fantastic.
That's good.
Footage from the demo for sure.
And they scanned in old Tony Hawk.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
They're doing all this really cool stuff that tells me that, like, signals that, like, maybe they figured it out. And Jeff, I don't want to misquote him, but I because I was kind of working as I was watching the stream, but I think what he was saying at one point that it would be really cool if they sort of use this as a platform to just kind of add on levels from the later games and stuff, and just not necessarily make it a service game, but make this this is the Tony Hawk. If you want to play Tony Hawk, come here.
Yeah,
we're gonna add levels and characters.
Give the 3 DLC, give the 4 DLC.
Right. Like, if you are currently a kid in high school who was not around when Tony Hawk 1, 2, and 3 came out, this is where you can play that content, and it feels good and it feels modern. Like, that sounds awesome. But also, side story to this, they, like, in terms of modernizing the game and stuff like that, not quite the same as putting the old Tony Hawk in, but they changed the name of the mute grab to the Weddle grab as a tribute to its creator, and like, that's so cool.
That was really neat. That was a really neat thing to see.
Weddle is a deaf skater.
He is a deaf skater. Yep.
From, I think, in the 80s or whenever, I think the 80s would make sense for when a lot of like skateboarding culture was coming up and tricks were getting invented and stuff. This guy invented this grab, and they all just called it the mute grab because this guy didn't talk, but he's deaf, not mute. Well, and so Tony went to him and was like, hey, are you like, should we change this?
Yeah, and apparently Weddle was psyched. Like, he was super happy about it.
Well, that's good.
My understanding, one, there's a really good Instagram post that Tony Hawk did, sort of talking about it and breaking it down, that I think almost even more so than just changing the name was great, because it really talked about like the process of that decision making, and like talked about ableism and how like it was a mistake and not okay when they did it and everything. But I think also, like, part of the ridiculousness of it is I don't believe that he didn't speak either. I'm pretty sure I've heard he like verbalizes and stuff. So it was particularly weird because he wasn't even like some people who have, you know, some form of hearing loss or deafness don't speak and prefer to just sign. But I believe the Weddle actually speaks. So it was just a weird thing.
Yeah. Either way, it's cool. It's wholesome, and it's much better than our next news story.
Tony Hawk seems like a cool dude. He's also one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter.
Oh my God, he's so funny.
He posts awesome videos of his family doing skateboarding stuff too, which is really cool.
Yeah, and apparently, what is it? His son goes to Berkeley, and he was like, someone was trying to use his music or something. I can't remember.
It was PewDiePie.
PewDiePie.
I don't even think he used it. He just like somehow
his Spotify account got linked, linked. Like somebody found like his like verified Spotify account that he has, and so everybody could see what he listens to. And so Tony Hawk's kid just like, PewDiePie, don't listen to my music, and like all of PewDiePie's fans just like jumped on him. He's like, why don't you want this clout, bro? Like, like,
my
he's
dad's
like, no,
Tony
I cannot
Hawk.
tell you enough. Like, do not listen to my music.
That's great.
All right.
Should we bring the mood down a bit?
Y'all like Fortnite?
Nope.
Not in particular.
I mean, I played it. It was all right.
So, Epic has been at odds with mobile platform holders specifically. I think they're like with Android, they initially launched, you could only sideload the game. You couldn't go through the Apple or the Google Play Store to kind of circumvent the payment system in place.
You had
there.
to download a separate APK. It was not in the Google Play Store. Yes.
And did it come to iOS later, or did it come there first? I don't remember
I can't
this whole
remember either.
timeline. But basically, Epic is not a fan of stores taking a cut of microtransactions, especially. So like Steam, one of their big things was we don't want Steam taking 30% of our game sales, like revenue. And so they created the Epic Game Store and they created their own system. And Epic now seems to be trying to take that fight to mobile devices, where this week they created a discount on V-Bucks, the paid currency for the game, that you could buy by going directly through Epic and circumventing the Play Store and the App Store, Apple Pay process, which would, for iOS, would result in a 30% like cut going to Apple. I don't know what it is for Google. And not surprisingly, Apple and Google said, hey, yo, quit it. And the game is no longer available on either surface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because you can tell that Epic kind of set this all up. Like,
Oh,
it's
100%.
Like they obviously had all of this in place, because like the order of events was basically they did this event, like they sent the email out to people who were like, oh, you can get this discount on V-Bucks and only go through our store, not the like proprietary store.
Yeah.
They did that. Then Apple pulled it off. And then within like 20 or 30 minutes or something, they had a fully produced video that was mocking
Right.
the original 1984
Apple
ad that
ad.
Apple did like many years ago.
Which
And they had the full lawsuits penned and ready to go. And those do not happen in the matter of an hour. Those
and they
Yeah.
promoted
Right. That like the speed of how things escalated, that wouldn't happen in just
This was premeditated.
if this
100%.
wasn't
like
this entire
Apple
thing.
100% took the bait.
Yeah.
they promoted that 1980 Fortnite event, if you want to call it that, that morning, like before it was even pulled from the store. I got an email about it before
Really?
it
I
actually
didn't
came
see
down.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Hashtag free Fortnite.
They didn't say what it was
oh
about.
god.
Like they just said that like join us for a unique in-game event or some shit. But maybe it wasn't an email and it was like a tweet or a notification on the store or something, but they definitely promoted it before
I thought it was Tim Sweeney coming out and saying like, join us as we talk about this thing, like that's happening. But I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, it's very clearly was premeditated. I bet so far as they told Apple what they were going to do, and Apple said, well, we're going to pull it down. And then they did it. And then Apple responded.
I don't know. I don't know if they did. But either way, yeah, now Epic is suing both Apple and Google. And me being a masochist and a sadist and just a terrible human, I read both of the lawsuits.
Yeah, you said you're doing that, and more power to you.
Yeah, I think the last thing I saw before I went to sleep last night was Allison writing in the group chat, Alex, I hope you know how much you do for this podcast, and that includes reading this nonsense, which I second that because that's insane that you did that.
To be fair, they're both probably about 60 pages and they're relatively easy. They're not using that crazy of legal language. The only thing is that they're kind of boring and a little bit repetitive.
How similar are they?
Pretty similar. The only thing is that like they both kind of start with like a short story that's about the companies and how they started up as small underdogs, and like they're like, oh, we're gonna start with noble intents, and like Google's whole "don't be evil" mantra, and then like Apple's like whole thing against the IBM monopoly that was the 1984 ad. And then like how now both of those companies are leaders in their industries. So like they're drawing from each company's specific past in order to do that, but it's kind of following the same thing. And the weird thing is in the Apple case, like Epic makes a pretty clear cut case about why, like how they only let users purchase things from their app store and make in-app purchases with Apple's payment processor. And like they always take a 30% tax on both Apple Store stuff and blah, blah, blah. Like they're very specific, calling out numbers, calling out update numbers, and like they're very specific. And then they compare it to how Mac allows users and devs to distribute downloads relatively freely, and that like other platforms and stuff, they only take like 3%, and like compare that to the 30%, blah blah blah. But the Google one is weird because with Google's case, it seems to come across as a lot more ambiguous. Like it doesn't have as many details, and it doesn't seem to have as clear cut of a case, because it does have side loading. It has the APKs that you can download elsewhere and all that kind of stuff. So like it's weird. But anyway, sorry, we don't have to dive too deep into it. Do y'all have any questions about them, I guess?
I read chunks of them too, and what I think is it's just the fact that they are written relatively, let's put it this way. The reason that they are written in a way that doesn't include tons of legalese is so that they can be read by people, and people will go, oh, they have a point. Like they want people who don't normally read lawsuits to read these lawsuits.
Yeah.
Like these are marketing documents as much as they are
I think also
legal documents.
From what I've heard from people, like I watch a YouTube lawyer, Legal, who's
same.
Legal is great.
It's great.
And I think that if I remember correctly, I remember him saying that not having a ton of legalese or legal jargon is largely good, because there are generally people who are going to have to interact with the law that aren't trained lawyers. But at the same time, I think with everything that is coming together about this whole situation, it becomes more and more clear that this is more publicity than the standard lawsuit.
It is pretty masturbatory. Like that's weird term to use, but it's really true. Like they have legit pictures of Fortnite in there. And they call it, quote, a global cultural phenomenon, which is talking about like how many millions of downloads it has and stuff like that. And it's a little weird, like in that sense. So like when I first heard about Epic giving it to Apple, I was like, yeah, this is cool. I mean, good, because there is monopolistic stuff going on there. And
right.
Like I was like, yeah, there is monopolistic stuff going on at Google before. Like this is before the Google suit came out. And I was like, yeah, this is good. But then Pat had a very salient point about how they're marketing this at children, and
well, kind of on that
creepy.
On that, this real quick. I'll read something from their FAQ that they put out that says, "Why can't I access Fortnite on iOS?" And their answer is, "Apple is blocking your ability to get the latest Fortnite updates. All players should have a choice in payment providers and save up to 20%. Apple wants to limit your payment choices. Join the fight against App Store on social media with hashtag free Fortnite. I only play on iOS devices. How can I regain access to Fortnite if I only play on iOS devices? Make your voice heard in the fight against the app tax. Message at App Store using hashtag free Fortnite on social. All players should have a choice in payment providers and save up to 20%. Apple disagrees. This is fucking Trumpian. Like that's
like,
really garbage.
Like I doing this as a publicity stunt is already sketchy, but like, you know, people do sketchy publicity stunts. Trying to get children to be mobilized into your dispute over payment options is really sketch.
Children are not the best at critical thinking. If there's something like if there's something they care about, such as Fortnite or Roblox, and then they suddenly are in a game and then the whole game is taken up by a screen that's like, oh, F Apple, they're going to be like, they're not going to question. They're going to be like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Like that's kind of an abuse of the situation. Like that's really...
Right. And we can easily look at this from the outside and say, oh, well, they're doing this as a publicity stunt. But like you said, like if you're a young child who really likes playing Fortnite, you might not have those critical faculties to look at this and go, oh, it's a publicity stunt.
It's perpetuating like toxic gamer culture with like social media and
very much.
And as someone who works with, thankfully, a significantly smaller brand than either of these companies, but who does work and answer social media accounts for a brand for my day job, if someone did this to us, and I understand Apple's a bigger company. Whoever's running their social media accounts probably better paid than me. I'm not trying to like suggest that it's a 1-to-1, but if someone did this, I would probably need to it would impact my mental health to get
Oh yeah.
tens of thousands of messages from angry children saying awful stuff to me all day long. So it's irresponsible for them to do this and for them to direct that towards them. The lawsuits, fine. Apple should get served lawsuits. They should be regulated. But this like weaponizing kids thing is so gross. It is like just, it's unbelievable to me that they thought that this was acceptable or that they like gave the go ahead. And then on top of that, for Tim Sweeney, he's been tweeting for the last 24 hours talking about how this is about small developers. We're doing this for them. This isn't about
tiny
money. And it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
The guy's a fucking liar. It's just like, it's so frustrating.
To succinctly quote this this YouTube video title from Jim Sterling: "Screw Apple, screw Google, and screw Epic Games." It's
like totally. Like that's the thing is, looking at their lawsuit, I agree with the majority of what they're saying. Like, especially they do dive deeper into the Play Store stuff. They talk about how Google is like, oh, if like they strike special deals with Samsung, so Samsung users can download their own stuff from their own store, but LG users can't, and like all this kind of stuff. Like, yes, it is good to bring awareness to that kind of stuff, and it is good to have critical, open conversations about that kind of stuff, because it is bad practice. But like you're saying, Pat, weaponizing children and pointing them at the social media outlets and going at it and turning it like, oh, we're being activists. No, you're not. You're just kind of bullying at that point.
Yeah.
Like, so the fact that they're going at it from both angles is weird. Like the one angle, the legal angle, is the valid, correct, and like it's reasoned and it's good. But the other angle, good Lord.
So I think, you know, this could not be true at all, but I wonder if the social media angle, the 1984 free Fortnite, 1980 Fortnite, is that what they called it? God, that's so dumb. We can come back to that. But the social media and getting the public riled up to be mad at Apple, I wonder if that is to try and get Apple to take action before there's any sort of lawsuit ruling, so they can just like, okay, lawsuit is dismissed, like we're withdrawing our suit because Apple did what we wanted, because we got the public on our side.
That I think is exactly why they're doing it,
because it'll save them so much money if they don't have to go through a long ass legal battle with Apple.
So settling out of court is what you're saying.
Basically. But I don't even know if like they're seeking any damages or if they're trying to get Apple to change their policies. But so basically just getting Apple to change their policies and get something done without a legal ruling.
They'll settle, I think, without even Apple changing their policies. They want the same kind of sweet deal that Amazon got. Like the thing that people bring up is like, oh, well, Netflix and Amazon, blah, 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 blah. That's because they dealt with Apple and they have really good agreements set up, basically. Like and those were in place because there was value on both sides of the table for those to happen.
If that happens, every single person who interviews Sweeney should hold his feet to the fire and be like, what about the small developers? If that's what happens.
Absolutely, I agree with you, but I don't trust them to give a shit about that, because it's and like people have pointed out that like Epic still takes, I mean, their cut is better than Steam's, but they still take a 12% cut of sales too, like, which is lower, less than half the cut that Apple takes. But and people have also been pointing out that like Sony and Microsoft on their platforms also take significant cuts of revenue cuts and stuff. Like it's just so clearly a target at Apple so that they can monetize that specific user base in a way that makes them a lot more money. And I think that the other part of that social side of it is they're trying to build social capital so that they look like the good guys and they look like they're helping people to cash in down the road too. It's not just about this particular case, but I have some friends of mine who are lawyers, one of which is my dad, who thinks that Epic probably has a pretty strong case. But I've also heard from other lawyers who are more in the kind of more in this space in tech law that think that their case is not very good against Apple. And so that's part of why they might be leveraging the social side of it too, is because they probably won't be able to, without spending a lot of money, win that case.
I just don't see a world where people like, I don't know if this actually changes anything.
It's I don't think it will.
Because people are still going to use iPhones if they want to use iPhones. They're not going to switch to Android just because of Fortnite payments. They'll figure out another way to play that stuff. They'll stream it on their PC or something. I don't know.
Something Rami Ishmael was saying is part of this is there's one of Epic's big things is they want people to be able to use whatever payment processor they want. But like indie developers aren't going to be able to process their own payments. Mm-hmm. That's sort of like why one of the values of having storefronts like this that they can sign deals on, because it provides payment processing. So it relies on the idea that somebody's going to come out and what Rami was talking about is like, so someone comes out and does third-party payment processing for Apple and still charges a significant cut. Like the introducing competition into that space is not the thing that it is not the capitalist wet gamer moment dream that you think it is.
Gross. It
is that someone will come along that figures out a way to screw developers slightly less than Apple, and then they'll still be screwed. So it's great for Epic because they're big enough that they do their own payment processing, so they can just keep all that money. But for an indie developer, that's not how it works. So, and on top of that, I wonder who might come along to provide payment processing services for indie developers were the platform to open more. Maybe they could go through Epic, and then Epic makes more fucking money. So it's such a transparent, like greed-driven thing that it's just kind of disgusting that they're marketing it the way they are.
Yeah, like the last thing I'll say about it is, like, to reiterate what I was saying before, when I first saw it, I was like, okay, good, yeah, put Apple to the coals, that's good. But then it became clear that it's very much just this is a money thing, and that comes across as so much more disingenuous.
Yeah, and I initially when I saw it, I agreed, and I actually thought it probably had a link to streaming somehow, the xCloud stuff, but it became pretty clear over the course of the morning that was not what was happening.
Yeah.
How wild is it that like so much of this, like Fortnite, is generally played by younger kids or like teens maybe, and their big video point at like rallying call was the Apple 1984 ad.
Yeah, also that
like most people like of like that are not. When was that was that in 84? That ad.
Yes, I think
like
so.
Most people who were born who were not like adults or like young adults at that time period are not going to know what that is.
December 31st, 1983.
Yeah, and it's like I know of it, but like I'm also older than the average person they're targeting with this. And I just know of it, considering I wasn't alive.
Maybe if you've read 1984 in like a high school class, maybe you've seen this ad. Like that's where I saw this ad.
And as I've seen pointed out a couple of times too, 1984, the novel, is arguably one of the more important literary works of the century, and is about fighting fascist authoritarianism, which is it is already absurd to tie that to computing hardware, and then now to a video game that is just like, oh, you can't play it on this one device because we can't make enough money there. It's just like you're defanging the thing that the initial work that actually has weight and is important. In the first place. So it's just you're doing the thing that the book is critical of.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably keep updated on this because it's interesting, and the fallout, but the repercussions of this could be interesting, but it'll probably take a while to see any real change because big companies move at glacial paces.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of big companies, Alex, you've put on something that I wouldn't necessarily immediately associate with games.
Nope.
That is Mozilla laying off 25% of their staff.
Yeah. So
That's a lot.
It is. And I have a lot of thoughts about it. So a lot of people know Mozilla as the Firefox people. Like, hey, that's a big and good thing they make. And they've been making that for many years. But they also have a bunch of other projects that they do. And one of the biggest of which is MDN, which is the Mozilla's Developers Network. Like anyone who's ever worked in development, especially in web, there's a very, very, very high chance that you've at least referenced the MDN at least a few times.
Yeah.
I know, Andre,
in my little bit of programming I've done, the teacher is like, and we're going to go to MDN, and we're going to search for this thing. And I'm going to teach you how to use MDN because you're going to use it all the time.
Yeah. And Erica, I imagine you have too at some point.
Yeah, most definitely.
Like it's hugely popular. It's invaluable for developers. And like they have a full team of maintainers that are working behind it on top of the fact that everything that Mozilla does is open source. So like that's awesome. And like Firefox itself as the browser is also a huge player for web developers because their in-browser development tools are top notch, like definitely the best in class. Like we could definitely have a really long talk about Firefox's Firebug versus Chrome's Lighthouse, but maybe another time, like maybe on Coding Fix when I actually get to recording that. But point being, like they're a huge success story in the development sector. And that's what makes these layoffs so scary for tech in general, including games, because they laid off, like Andre said, 25% of their workforce. They closed their entire Taipei office and laid off a bunch of people from the US, Canada, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. And they laid off the entirety of the MDN team, which is fucking scary. They laid off the majority of their dev tools team, which is the Firebug I was talking about. And the layoffs are also expected to have a big impact on Firefox. So this is setting a really scary precedent because Mozilla's been around for a really long time. And like they're a team that has been remote and distributed for decades. And the reason they cited is the layoffs is because of COVID impacts on their business and their income. And the thing, like they've been remote, they've been distributed. They've had a lot of time to get used to that flow, and have thrived in it. So like if game developers are getting into that and like they're still not used to it, like big game devs where they might have server rendering farms that they're used to relying on and they don't know how to do that now. Like that's kind of scary. And like getting back to Mozilla itself, for development people, coders, it was always seen that if you got a job with Mozilla, you were stable. Like you were in a stable place for the foreseeable future. Much like if you're getting into games, like I imagine getting a gig at EA or something, right? Like that's seen as being very stable and you could probably be there for the rest of your career if you wanted to, but now that's being shaken up. And like to get a little bit speculative, if we take them at face value, yes, COVID is a big factor and could definitely spell trouble for the next year or so. But I've had some conversations with other developers through my workplace and just through some other channels of devs I regularly talk with. And there is a very real chance that another big factor could be because of Google and how, these antitrust lawsuits we've just been talking about and how they are particularly monopolistic with Chrome. Like how it comes installed on a ton of devices, be them smart TVs, phones, tablets, computers, whatever. And Google has also been known to be a bit pushy with getting people to use Chrome or even Chromium, like which Microsoft Edge is now built on. And like they do some stuff where it's like to use some apps or whatever, it's exclusive through Chrome, like everyone's favorite Stadia, of course. Joking, but like there's there are lots of things that only work in Chrome, and it's pretty shitty. But yeah, it's very much like the antitrust suit, and that combined with pandemic reasons has me and a lot of developers like pretty fucking worried about what this will mean, especially for like mid to large size game companies. So like when the stable giants are no longer stable, that is super worrisome. Anyways,
Interesting.
that's pretty much it. But I don't think many other game places are talking about it, but I think it could have pretty big impact.
That I don't have any insightful thoughts on that other than that is wild.
Yeah, like the fact that they laid off all of MDN is fucking insane. Like people are really upset. Like they don't know what's going to be the future of MDN.
Well, hopefully some resourceful folks are archiving and already working on maintaining like an alternative and stuff like that. Like there are other tools out there, but
yeah,
it's a good one. So
anyways,
all right,
we can get away from bleakness now.
I don't know. This next news story is pretty bleak if you ask me. Blaseball is taking an extended siesta.
I mean, it's understandable. It grew really fast, but
no, it's not understandable. It's unacceptable.
I mean, I'm kind of glad to have my life back a little bit. Honestly.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't checked in on the Discord like at all. Someone messaged me.
Yeah,
to use
neither
a song
have I.
that I made in a Bandcamp release, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." But that's the only.
I'm looking forward to getting back to it.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think the break could be. Yeah.
I haven't been in on the Discord at all, but I have been still looking at Twitter.
Oh yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah.
There's the Twitter, the team-based Twitter accounts are still doing a lot of charity work, which kicks ass.
Which is very cool.
That is really great.
But also sorry, Pat, go for it.
The Blaseball commissioner account also tweeted like, "Hey, if you want to sell fan work related to Blaseball, just go for it. Just do it.
That's
if
cool.
you want to
really
donate, they were like, if you want to donate some money to us or to one of the causes that a lot of the teams are promoting, that would be awesome. But you have our permission. Go ahead and do it. They're working on official merch as well, but yeah, they said that it's cool to sell your fan work and produce like shirts and cards and whatever, which is great.
That's awesome. Yeah. Something I was talking about with a friend, I don't remember who, because they talked about how if the same team won 3 times, they would ascend, and so would Blaseball, right? And I was saying like a week or two ago, man, it would be hilarious if that happened, and then they just ended Blaseball forever, like just put a stop on it, deleted the repo, just all gone forever.
Yeah.
And this was like a pretty good consolation prize because it's also pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, they're saying like it exploded far more than they ever could have expected, which I think is fair. It is the cultural event, Blaseball. Fortnite ain't got nothing on Blaseball.
Nope.
So I think going from being like a small group, they've done some other releases, like they have an Apple Arcade release, but then to make something like Blaseball, which very rapidly accrued this fandom, and they were, they're having to like maintain servers and like cybersecurity, basically, making sure because people are hacking and like finding bugs,
finding exploits.
They're
adding peanuts to their.
Yeah, and they were like actively hiring like a web developer to come on full time for a little bit. So I don't know if they found someone and like this is them like getting up to speed with all of that, but hopefully it comes back and it's better than ever.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I think something that we talked about a little bit, I do think that this will, I think they'll probably lose a lot of momentum with like mainstream audiences through this.
Probably, yeah.
Because it felt like it was picking up a lot of steam, and then just kind of for them to kind of like right when they started the extended siesta, it felt like it was starting to really crest the wave of mainstream thing. But I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. They don't seem like the kind of group that is trying to make millions and millions of dollars. They seem, like the kind of group that wants to like make sure that the staff has good benefits and housing and food and is happy and comfortable.
Yeah, which is good.
Which is great. And so I think having like I certainly am keeping my Patreon sub to them, and having a smaller fan base, in a way it almost serves the game, because as it grows, like it can lose some of the charm of having like a smaller group of people super passionate about the thing, and it can just kind of splinter the audience a little bit. So I think that's good. I would like to see improvements over time. I don't expect them after this siesta on the visual side of how the games are represented. I think it would be cool if they were able to like have
like a diamond and
I would like never expect
just a rudimentary representation.
I would never expect it to like look like the show or something, but just a like, even if it was just like a top down with like ASCII art of characters
looks like Rusty's Real Deal Baseball.
Oh God,
I think it would be cool.
That brought me back.
Make it look like Dwarf Fortress.
Sort of, yeah. Where you can see the ball like get hit and fly in the air and then get caught or whatever. That would be fun, I think.
That would ruin so many people, just because they would be absolutely like glued to the games more so than they already are. I mean, and that would destroy lives.
Baseball, the non-sport sport baseball, they have like this thing called MLB Gamecast that is almost that, where it's like a little like animated, you're like seeing it from the behind the plate perspective, and it's actually like lightly animated, and it has like character art and stuff, and it's kind of that. I would prefer they not try to do art of the characters and more just have it be like top down.
Well, because everyone's got their own character interpretations.
Right. And somebody was asking them that on Twitter, and I think they recognize that their community has a lot of things that they have discussed and come up with Blaseball.
Yeah.
And that they aren't necessarily going to get in the way with that.
Yeah. And it's tough because I think, like, from my perspective, if they feel like, if they want to say all of the players are robots or something, I think they should, as the people who made it, have the room to do that. But it's I also respect that people have put a lot of thought into their character.
Takes a lot of the stakes out.
So
if it's just robots getting incinerated.
I'm not saying I think they should do that. I'm just saying if they were to make a call like that, I think it's their thing. They have some right to do that stuff. But I also, it's cool that they're saying they want to respect the ideas that community has had too.
Yeah.
It's pretty feel good all around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, time to move on to something that won't make you feel so good. Control.
Yep, it does that to me.
Makes most of us feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Has an ultimate edition or game of the year or whatever, like a complete edition coming with all the DLC.
All the DLC.
Which, hey, that's cool. That's the DLC. It seems neat, sounds good, but there's an issue where if you want the next gen, the PS5, the Xbox Series X, Series S version, you need to buy this new version of the game, this complete version, Ultimate Edition.
Yeah,
you cannot. If you have the launch edition, like the day one, if you bought the game day one, even if you have the season pass, you will not get a next gen upgrade.
Right. And this Ultimate Edition, from what I understand, does not provide any new content beyond the season pass. Nope. So there are, I have definitely seen people who say, look, I bought the game at launch. I had the season pass. I have no reason to get this Ultimate Edition, and yet.
When
you combine it with the weird timed exclusivity, post-launch timed exclusivity with Sony, it definitely is like, for DLC, it is definitely like, man, 505 just kind of sucks, don't they?
Yeah, it was definitely like, a poor choice.
They've kind of sucked. Like, they've had issues with like their delivery on, like,
iffy.
Right. And now, which is, arguably true of Control too. And then this business shit, it's just like, it sucks. I feel in a way, and maybe they're thrilled about it. I don't know. But in a way, I kind of feel bad for Remedy having done that deal, because I mean, I can't imagine as a developer it feels good for all of this stuff to happen with your game.
No. Yeah, I can't imagine any of them are psyched about it.
Yeah. I will say that this coincides, the Ultimate Edition kind of coincides with the Steam release of the game. So it is at least cool that if you want it on Steam, you can get it there.
True Ultimate Edition.
I am not one of the, I don't like the screw Epic exclusivity shit, but given the earlier news story we talked about, I definitely would prefer not to toss them money right now. So
that game will probably hit top of the charts on Steam, like everything that comes to Steam that is already available on the PC. Like,
interestingly, they don't have the price listed on Steam. I wonder if they've said that anywhere.
I imagine it'll be like 60. That's typical standard.
But yeah, like, okay, so how much is the season pass for Control?
I don't. I want to say it was $24.99.
Like, so we'll say $25 ish. So
it's only $40 to get the Ultimate Edition. That's
on Steam or in general.
It says, well, this news story I'm seeing says this version of the game will only cost $39.99. It'll launch for Steam on August 27th.
Because the season pass is $25.
That sucks, though.
So
that
what?
Sucks for,
it still sucks, because if you win, you spend $85 on the game.
Yeah.
Sure. I think that's pretty standard.
It's better than if it was. No, I'm just saying it's better than if it was $60. But for someone like Allison who bought that game at launch,
and it ran
like
upgrade
shit on the PS4,
it was like unplayable. Yeah.
The upgrade stuff sucks for sure. That's not standard.
Like, if she was able to, or anyone was able to, like, say, okay, I've got the season pass, I've got the game, that's everything that's in the Ultimate Edition, give me the upgrade. Because
it makes me wonder if, and I'm not excusing anyone for this if this is the case, but it makes me wonder if that Sony and Microsoft are requiring developers to like recert their games or something for the new platforms.
I doubt it.
If you would think no, right? But like
if there's an upgrade, if there's like a next gen upgrade, I mean that would make sense because they're selling it on that new console. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's just an interesting. I mean, because the PS4 version of Control will work on PS5.
Yeah,
because games are backwards compatible, but it won't
have ray tracing enabled or anything like that.
Exactly. So you wonder if maybe that update costs money somehow, that they're saying we can't shoulder this cost without, and offer this for free to people.
I don't know. Like Microsoft is doing like enabling HDR in original Xbox games, like on a hardware level, and like doing all this, doing the backwards compatibility work themselves, and going to developers and going, "Hey, can we turn this on backwards compatibility?" So I don't know. Sony maybe, and I just don't. I find it hard to believe that they do that.
Agreed. It just strikes me as odd that they think that people will. Like, I will probably get this Ultimate Edition on Steam because I want to play it again on PC. That's a platform switch, though, because I haven't been able to play the DLC because I don't have it on PS4. I have it on Xbox. Yeah. And I would like to play the game again anyway because it's one of my favorite games of recent years. And so to me, like $40 to play it on PC instead, it's fine. I don't mind paying it. But do they really think that people are going to repurchase the game that they played last year to play it on the new consoles with upgraded visuals? Like, it's a cool, I mean, I love the game, but
they will. Sony proved it with like I think this generation proved it with so many of the remasters and stuff.
But remasters, I mean, this is a game that came out last year.
Well, people, I think that's where the tricky thing is, because like these Ultimate Editions are nothing new, but it's the Ultimate Edition is the upgrade path is really crappy.
I think it's more about the precedent they set, because like there's been a lot of questioning or inquisitive sideways glances at like, okay, is everybody going to opt in to just letting you upgrade? And this has been like the first public case of no, unless you do it this very specific way.
It's not. The NBA 2K.
Oh yeah, you're right.
70, which is going to be
EA has-
70, and
EA has a weird thing where you have to buy the current versions of the game by like January 12th or something.
I
Right.
think
That's true.
they changed that, or maybe
I think they made it a little more lenient, but I don't believe that they changed it
their
altogether.
original stance has been changed. I don't remember what it is now.
Yeah,
But
so
the
there's some weird
original
stuff.
bad one was not.
But I think this might be the first time that we're seeing a game that is coming out in like a package is coming out in 12 days that is in reference to a year-old game that is taking this route for sure.
Yeah. I wonder if this gets changed because there's been a lot of stink raised about it, but we'll see.
Part of
This
me,
is our digital future.
I wonder if there's just, it's interesting. I just wonder if there's like tricky business stuff like, oh, Microsoft said it's fine, or Sony said it's fine, but the other platform holder was like, no, we got to charge you for this. And then they said, well, we have to charge users, so we have to do it everywhere. And this is just our stance. I would love to see the business stuff behind this decision to understand where the agreements come from.
But maybe they financially they needed to do this to make it make sense, but
maybe I found out they bought publishing rights for Control 505 did for 20 years. So they have Control's publishing rights for 20 years, apparently. Which is not totally insane. I mean, it's that game. It's not like Remedy didn't sell the IP or anything.
No,
but,
that's wild.
Yeah.
Especially as they're like talking about this Remedy cinematic universe and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Starring
Well,
Brendan Fraser.
one last news story before we get out of here. I could have sworn I referenced this, but it was just a rumor. There was nothing official. Ono is leaving Capcom after many years at the helm. He brought Street Fighter 4 back to prominence he brought Street Fighter back to prominence with Street Fighter 4 after it had been dormant for a while and people had fallen off because of Street Fighter 3 being super technical. And he headed up Street Fighter 5, which was less warmly received. And from the sounds of it, Street Fighter 6 was not testing so well internally, and he was getting a lot of the blame for that because of what he was trying and wanted to put in the game. And so that directorial producer type role has been moved over to someone else. I think a woman in the fighting game community who's really highly respected is what the rumor is. I don't know if there's any confirmation on that.
Yeah.
But Ono's leaving behind a legacy.
Yeah, I mean, like 30 years is a long dang time. Like 30 years in an industry that is not particularly old, and he's been in it for longer than a lot of the people playing his games have been alive.
Right.
Yeah. In Japan, it is very common to stay, or at least for older folks, it is common to stay at one company for a very long time. So that's not super surprising in that way, but he is a veteran of the industry. He's been around a long time.
Yeah. And like he's had medical issues like 7 or 8 years ago, I think. There was a thing like, was it like a Street Fighter Cross Tekken event or something? Like he collapsed.
Oh,
I think.
Yeah,
So,
much like Sakurai working himself to into these horrible health situations.
Yeah. So like hopefully ultimately it's the best thing for his health, and
right.
Yeah.
like he deserves the break, man. Like it's a long
and
time.
he has quite a legacy, so he deserves to take it easy for however long he wants to.
He can take it sleazy.
It'll be interesting to see what he does with his time, if he starts a studio himself or goes somewhere else or whatever, because like I said with that rumor, it sounds like this was not necessarily him deciding just out of nowhere. It might have been like, okay, if I'm getting pulled off this, maybe I don't have what it takes to work on Street Fighter anymore. I'm going to leave Capcom. Maybe this gives him time to think some things over, decide what he wants to do, and come back with something new.
Maybe he moves on to Tekken.
Maybe. Well, with that, I think we're going to wrap up. This has been a great show, everybody. It's
A long one, a marathon one. We've outdone ourselves again.
Yep. Once again. This has been episode 134 of the Gaming Fix podcast on August 15th, 2020. I have been your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite wet gamer moment. You can find me on Twitter at CoolSlaw, COOLSL4W. You can find me streaming on Twitch a couple days a week over at twitch.tv/coleslaw, COLESL4W. Pat, where can people find you?
Find me at PJC Plays, and I'll be trying to get that helicarrier to take off all weekend. The crashed one.
Okay. I beat Frog Fractions 2, speaking of helicarriers. Frog Fractions 3, rather. Allison, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY and follow my Persona 5 Royal tweets.
Great.
You should.
Erica?
At Erica, AIREHCUH, and in my kitchen making a burrito because I am hungry now.
Are you going to make the Tony Hawk burrito?
I'm going to put black beans in it.
Also,
close enough.
I threw up a presentation or some impressions of this early access racing game Drag that we didn't really talk about, but they're on the site, so go read that. It includes my full thoughts on that, and it's pretty fun.
Great. Alex, where can people find you?
If you go to Super GG Radio, I'm on their 77th episode, which is out August 16th.
Yeah. Oh, that's right now for me. Boy, I'm gonna go listen to it.
Make sure you tweet angrily at them if you can't get it yet. Send them screenshots of your clock.
Oh, that's a good idea. You can find us on Twitter at Fix Podcasts, or on YouTube at Fix Podcasts, I think is what it is, where I put up a video talking about the Halo Infinite delay. Hopefully I'm going to figure out some more videos to put up, reacting to kind of the news of the week, whatever I find interesting. You can head over to fix.space, like Pat mentioned, see some reviews and impressions of a couple things. We've got something coming down the line from friend of the podcast, Chris Edgerton.
Yep, I'll be working on that.
EA Sports, UFC 4. I hate the name of that game. It's too long. And you can head over to podchaser.com/gamingfix to rate us, review us, give us some feedback, make us a better podcast.
Yeah.
I think that's everything.
Drink Orangina, everybody.
Hey, they didn't pay for that.
It's good.
And lots of water.
Thanks again to Jan Ochoa for joining us on this episode.
Yes.
It was a pleasure.
Yes.
And,
It was very exciting.
Yeah, it was great to talk to him. He is a very friendly guy. Thanks for joining me, everyone.
Thank you, Andre.
Yeah.
Keep your socks out of the toilet, Alex.
No.
No promises.
Stay wet, gamers.
Okay, bye.
That's gonna be my new sign
Don't
off.
like
That's
that.
gonna end every
No,
podcast.
yeah, let's not.
Okay, we're good on recordings, right, everyone? You don't need to do another clap.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay.